All right. Good evening. Just jump in the gun. I guess Mr. Bowman's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. That takes us to item 5, adoption and approval of tonight's agenda, 5.1.
So moved. Second.
Questions, changes? Nothing? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Aye. Item 6, approval of the minutes. 6.1, approval of the minutes of May 9th, 2017.
Second.
Questions, corrections? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Look at that, moving right along. Item 7, best part of the night, special recognitions, reports, and presentations. 7.1, students of the month. This is my favorite. I think it's everyone's favorite. So, we'll call you up here in order. And we're going to have you face the camera when you get called up. You gotta smile really big so we can embarrass you and everyone can see you later. All right. Let's start with Petaluma Junior High.
Good evening, everyone. Bennett Hawley, I'm the principal of Kenilworth. Typically, our leadership students would be doing this, but tonight is one of those Washington, D.C. trip meetings, so they are not around. So that means that you're stuck with me. So here we go. Kenilworth Junior High School is proud to introduce our March Student of the Month. We have 4.
Yeah, I saw that.
Some from-
He had some makeups here.
Our March Student of the Month, Eli Drillhand.
All right.
Okay, maybe we don't have 4.
And that will happen in June.
Kenilworth Junior High School is proud to introduce our April Student of the Month, Kikoa Garrido.
This shiny award and have you turn this way and
Go.
big smiles.
Kikoa has been chosen Student of the Month by his team teachers because he is one of our most respected student athletes and citizens. Kikoa's teachers were eager to sing his praise, describing him as well-liked, courteous, hardworking, respectful, and respected by others. According to Kikoa's English teacher, Ms. Farrell, Kikoa is a natural leader. He contributes to class discussions and listens to what others have to say. Kikoa's work demonstrates an attention to detail and a mastery of the content. Mr. Schmidt enthusiastically added, Kikoa's work is outstanding. He is extremely respectful and courteous. Kikoa is a team player. Not only does Kikoa excel in the classroom at Kenilworth, but he is also an outstanding athlete. Kikoa maintains an impressive grade point average while competing in 3 sports. A triple threat, Kikoa excels in football, lacrosse, and is a valuable member of the Colt track and field team as both a sprinter and long jumper. Kenilworth track coach Mr. Bradley noted that Kikoa is a rock. He can always be counted on to give his best and compete at a high level. After graduating from high school, Kikoa would like to play college football and pursue a degree in engineering. Kikoa's mom, Rose Solani, added this, Kikoa is such a great kid. He is considerate of others, respectful of his adult role models, enjoys participation, and seeks to learn new things. I could not have asked for a better son and friend. I want to offer him the world and can't wait to see how he evolves into a good man and how he contributes to the community. Congratulations.
Because we know that without the support of family and close friends, maybe you wouldn't have made it quite this far. Although I'm always impressed by everything all you kids up here do, so you probably would have. But we would like to honor your family, so I'm assuming because he kind of called them out already. Is this your family here in the front row? Yep. Would you stand?
Kenilworth Junior High School is proud to announce our May Student of the Month, CJ Gutierrez. gives me a hug. CJ has been chosen Student of the Month by his team of teachers because he is one of Kenilworth's most well-rounded and exemplary students. CJ is truly Kenilworth's Renaissance man. CJ, who is enrolled in one of our most challenging schedules, has earned a 4.0 grade point average every grading period while at Kenilworth. CJ's teachers were unanimous in their praise of his abilities as a student and as a citizen. CJ's U.S. history instructor, Mr. Raya, shared, CJ is a great student. He is consistently thoughtful and thorough in his work. CJ is kind to his peers and to adults. Our Spanish teacher, Ms. Park, enthusiastically added, CJ is very disciplined with his work. He is willing to help other students and to answer every question he's asked. CJ is loved by everyone in my class. Not only has CJ been an outstanding student at Kenilworth, but he's also spent time volunteering to help elementary school students with their reading during summer school. While CJ excels academically, he is also a passionate musician and skateboarding enthusiast. CJ, who is self-taught in guitar, enjoys jamming with his friends on Metallica, Pantera, and Slayer tunes. CJ is also an avid skateboarder and enjoys spending his free time shredding on the quarter pipe that he and his dad built together. You can tell an adult wrote this. After high school, CJ would like to go to college and continue to pursue music and skateboarding. CJ hopes to someday settle in the Lake Tahoe area. CJ's mom added, CJ is a wonderful human being with a lot of amazing qualities. He is a dedicated student who works very hard, yet makes it look so easy. He loves to learn new things. He is happiest when he's on the skateboard, skating around with his cousins and friends while blasting some heavy metal on his earphones. We are very proud of him. Congratulations, CJ.
Please come on out, stand up, let us praise you as well.
All right, Kenilworth Junior High School is proud to introduce our May Student of the Month, Rachel Gower. Remember her twin sister got it last month? Yeah. If Rachel looks familiar, it may be because her twin sister Megan was Kenilworth's April Student of the Month. An outstanding student in her own right, Rachel was chosen Student of the Month by her team of teachers because of her exemplary grades, outstanding citizenship, and her dedicated leadership on our campus. Rachel's teachers had no shortage of superlatives when asked to describe her. Smart, hardworking, kind, compassionate, and friendly are just a few of the ways Rachel is viewed by the teachers and staff at Kenilworth. Rachel's history teacher, Mr. Raya, was eager in his praise of Rachel. Rachel is amazing. She takes her time on all of her assignments, and it shows. Rachel makes a great team member in groups, encouraging all the members to actively participate. She shows strong mastery of history content, and she has the ability to bring connections from outside of class into history. Mr. Anderson, Rachel's math teacher, succinctly summarized her time at Kenilworth. Rachel is an absolute joy to have in my classroom. She is a very hard worker and a great student. It has been a pleasure to have her in my class. Not only has Rachel been an outstanding student at Kenilworth, which is reflected in her 4.0 grade point average, but she has also been an integral member of our leadership class. Rachel has been responsible for helping to plan all of our spirit days, dances, and rallies, and the Kenilworth Talent Show. Rachel and her sister even performed a song and dance number to Singing in the Rain at the talent show. After high school, Rachel would like to attend college in a big city and pursue her passion as a writer. Rachel's mom, Leslie, added, Rachel is driven, focused, and extremely self-motivated. She is also so sweet and kind and a great friend. We are very proud of her. Congratulations, Rachel.
Siblings now. Yes.
Eli Drohan, did Eli show up? Kenilworth thanks you.
Okay, how about Petaluma Junior High?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bossberger. I'm the Petaluma Junior High representative. And for our first student of the month, we'd like to call up Jaylee Jackson. Petaluma Junior High is pleased to present Jaylee Jackson as our May 2017 Female Student of the Month. Jaylee was born on February 24, 2003 in Sunnyvale. Academically, she is one of our star students. She is also very involved in extracurricular activities. She is known for her leadership skills and for being a model citizen. Jaylee's transcript is nearly perfect. She's a multiple Renaissance Award earner and maintains a very rigorous schedule. She aspires to graduate from high school with a 4.0 grade point average and attend an excellent college. Jaylee hopes her grades and school involvement will increase her likelihood to earn scholarships so she can help her family and pay for her college tuition. Her primary passions are volleyball and music. Jaylee has been a valuable member of the Petaluma Junior High School volleyball team and plans to continue playing as she progresses through high school and into college. Her other love is singing. Jaylee has been a member of the school chorus for every year as it was available to her and plans to continue. Her chorus teacher says, quite simply, Jaylee is one of the best vocal students I've ever heard in any of my classes. She is extremely detailed and oriented. I never have to worry about anything having to do with Jaylee's preparation for my class. She can lead an entire class by herself, singing if needed, and the students look to her as an example of how to do things right. I handpicked Jaylee to be the drum major and lead the PJHS band through the streets of Petaluma for the Butter and Eggs Day parade last month. Due to her strong leadership capabilities, the band turned into an outstanding performance. I have little doubt that she will go very far in whatever field she chooses. Beyond this, Jaylee regularly demonstrates her natural citizenship skills. At her previous school, she was elected a member of the student council. She organized a talent show at her elementary school and voluntarily helped the other students getting off the buses in the morning. Jaylee is a natural leader at the junior high level too, and she spends a lot of time babysitting and being with her family. Jaylee is concerned about the way students at her school treat one another. She would prefer to see a more supportive and cooperative atmosphere rather than a hostile and competitive one. Jaylee tries to set the best example to others by encouraging others rather than putting them down, as she sees others do. Jaylee Jackson is a remarkable young woman. She pursues meaningful and thoughtful goals, both for her personal benefit and in a more global sense. We are very pleased to have her represent Petaluma Junior High School as May 2017 Student of the Month.
Are these folks?
Yes.
For Petaluma Junior High's second Student of the Month, we'd like to call up Nathan Zimmerman. Petaluma Junior High is also proud to present Nathan Zimmerman as our May 2017 Male Student of the Month. Nate was born on July 22, 2003 in Santa Rosa, California. He is an exemplary middle school student known as a scholar athlete with a passion for environmental causes. In addition, he is a kind and considerate young man. As one of our students who has earned multiple Renaissance Awards over the past 2 years, it is clear that Nate likes to challenge his academic strengths. He takes the most rigorous classes at PJHS and earns mostly A's and occasional B's. And he does this with grace. Nate's math teacher says of Nate, "Great student. I especially appreciate that he says thank you to me after every class." Sports are a big part of Nate's life. He's currently playing both baseball and basketball, and next year Nate plans to pick up a third sport. Although Nathan loves most competitive sports, baseball is his favorite sport. It is Nate's goal to be recruited to a Division I college for his skills and eventually be drafted into the major leagues. His other passion is the environment. At Montessori River Middle School, Nate was heavily involved in raising money to help clean up the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. He also spearheaded fundraising to help save the endangered South African penguin. On the quieter side of life, Nate loves to read. He says he learns something new with each book and plans to make personal reading a lifelong hobby. One of the biggest problems Nate sees affecting the students today is a lack of compassion and acceptance between students, which sometimes leads to bullying and violence. As a result of this, he worries about the safety of the school community. Nate's mother adds, Nathan is a compassionate person who is completely dedicated to everything he does. He loves to learn and is excited for the high school and more. We agree. Nate is the kind of student and human who always puts forth his best effort. We are very pleased to have Nathan represent Petaluma Junior High School as the May 2017 Student of the Month.
Hi, I'm Presley Roof, and I'm ASB Vice President, and our first person is Jason Goldblatt. Jason Goldblatt has lived his entire life in Petaluma. He is a fan of sports, the Golden State Warriors, music, learning, and having a good time. This year, he is a graduating senior. From the start of his education at Casa Grande, Jason has always had a strong interest in math and science. Next fall, Jason will be attending Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in order to pursue his interest in math and science. He has chosen to major in mechanical engineering. As a freshman, he joined Casa's wrestling and tennis teams. This began 4 years of varsity. As a senior, he helped to lead both tennis and wrestling teams as a team captain. Outside of competition, Jason always maintained his fitness through running, hiking, playing recreational sports, and enjoying the outdoors. Occasionally, he enjoys weightlifting with his fellow friend and student of the month, Lucas. In his free time, he can often be found spending time with his friends and partaking in day trips. Jason is unsure of what the future has in store for him, but is eager to start a new chapter in his life after high school.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Georgie. I am an ASB officer at Casa Grande as well. And our second student of the month is Lucas Kelzer.
Yeah, Christian from Casa Grande.
Sorry.
Okay, so we have that person. Okay, hold on, I gotta be shaking of the hand and then hand over the award. There you go. Sorry about that. Big smiles.
Christian Kelzer is an extremely motivated and ambitious young man. He grew up in Petaluma, California, and is the oldest of three. He is a dedicated student athlete and has participated in lacrosse, basketball, and tennis over the course of his high school career. When Lucas is not in school or playing sports, he enjoys playing guitar and volunteering in his community and church. Even with all of the extracurricular activities that Christian takes part in, he still challenges himself with AP and honors classes. He loves to travel as well. He has been to Central America, many countries of Europe, and North Africa during month-long trips over the summer with his family. From a young age, he loved building and creating through music or Legos, which is why next year he will be studying civil engineering in the Weber Honors College at San Diego State University. He looks forward to He looks forward to be potentially erecting incredible buildings, roads, and walls in his future.
There we go. Okay, last but not least, Petaluma High.
Hello. I'm Jordan Marshall. I'm Petaluma High's statewide vice president, and our first student of the month is Lisbeth. Lisbeth is a senior at Petaluma High. She is a student who has great confidence in her academic ability as she decided to take on the challenge of 4 AP classes this year: AP Government, AP Economics, AP Statistics, and AP Physics. Despite that she has never taken an AP course in the past, Lisbeth has an overall GPA of 4.1. But maintaining her grades is not the only thing Lisbeth has done at Petaluma High. Throughout her years, she has been a member of the HOSA chapter at Petaluma High. This organization helped her further her passion for health occupations while at the same time giving back to her school community. This year, Lisbeth took on a leadership position by becoming the secretary of her HOSA chapter and the co-chairwoman for the HOSA fundraising committee. Lisbeth was a Purple People leader when Petaluma High had its very own transitional program. However, this year, Link Crew came to Petaluma High and Lisbeth became a Link Crew leader to help freshmen transition throughout their first year of high school. Lisbeth plans to go to Dominican University of California for her direct entry into the nursing program. She is thankful to all of her teachers and PHF staff members who have always given Lisbeth encouraging words and advice. Petaluma High School knows she will do well and achieve her dreams of becoming a nurse. Our second student of the month is Connor Stockton. Petaluma High School's male student of the month for May is Connor Stockton. When Connor was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Even though he was born with autism, he didn't let it stop him from succeeding in school and being a part of the Petaluma High School's cross-country and track teams. Connor had an incredibly hard time concentrating and focusing and was in many special education and RSP classes. As Connor trained more in running, he worked harder in school. He proved to all of his teachers that he could take general education classes and graduate with his class. When Connor joined the cross-country team during his freshman year of high school, he was one of the slowest runners on the team, by a good amount. But he kept running every day, slowly and consistently improving. He was a member of the varsity track team for 2 years and the varsity cross-country team for 3. Throughout his experience on Petaluma High School's cross-country team, he has gone from being one of the slowest on the team to being the 3rd or 4th placing runner. Connor has always been the president of the Circle of Friends Club, coming up with games and activities every week and helping get others involved. Looking to the future, Connor is planning to attend SRJC for 2 years and then transferring to a 4-year college. He hopes to get a degree in kinesiology and become an occupational therapist so he can help out other athletes. Lastly, Connor is very happy to have a mother, father, sister, and grandparents who truly care about him and are extremely happy to see him succeed.
Let's have him stand and we'll congratulate him.
Well, I tell you, I always feel like such an underachiever after all of that. So amazing. We have some of the most amazing people in this room every time we do these Student of the Month reports. So congratulations for really being such shining stars in our district. It's really amazing. You get your names up in the fancy plaques. You can come back and show people in the future. I think some people on the board still show us their names once in a while.
Put it out.
So, thank you, and parents, thank you, and grandparents and siblings for helping and supporting them. All right, before we take a break, because I know that's end of the year and some people may have homework and things, we're going to move on to a special recognition, 7.2. Who would like to lead that?
That would be me. Okay, so I'm going to make some of you feel old, so excuse me. 38 years ago, the USSR invaded Afghanistan. Michael Jackson released his breakthrough solo album, Off the Wall. Do you remember the pachinko? The pachinko game? It was the craze. The economy car of the year was the Toyota Corolla, which would set you back 3,700 big ones. 63 Americans were taken hostage in the American embassy in Tehran. The Sahara Desert experienced snow for the first time in recorded history for over 30 minutes. Sony introduced what? The Walkman. It'll set you back $200. There was an industry, in the television industry, cable television, people scoffed at this little company, and who in their right mind would want to watch sports news 24/7? ESPN was launched. Gas was 86 cents a gallon in Petaluma. The snowboard was invented, and if you wanted to buy a new home in Petaluma, it cost you $74,320. But also 38 years ago, Donna Ryans, who at the time, formerly known maiden name Rosenthal, then I believe you came in as Donna Posey, started in our district. And try not to cry. This is going to be one of her last board meetings. We have just a few more left. And I think we have some special guests here that would like to say a few words about Ms. Bryant's, what she's meant to them. And we'll have an opportunity for some other folks to share what she's meant to the school district. And so I'm going to open it up to anybody that would like to say anything, or let's go first. You remember the protocol. You're going to have to introduce yourself. Tell us why you are here.
Yeah, blast from the past.
Hi, my name is Chuck Catman. I had the pleasure of being in the school district for 30 years or so. And I must say, seeing students of the month recognized brought back such memories. Elizabeth Marquardt always used to say, this was the best thing of any board meetings of the whole year, to recognize kids like these. And it's still true. Just briefly about Donna. It goes without saying she does her job well. She was recognized as a CSA Employee of the Year in her classification, in token of that fact. But there's something really deeper that makes her stand out. From the time she was a school secretary, or even before that, instructional assistant at Cherry Valley, she is motivated about what can we do for kids. And she always raised that question in every job classification she's been in, and when she was president of CSEA, what can we do for kids? And she also had this notion that the way we can do best for kids is if all of us, classified, certificated, administration, parents, if we all work together as a unit. And Donna devoted herself to that. And I think that's what made her stand out so much and made her so valued in the district. And somewhere along the line, she picked up the nickname Boom Boom. I've never understood why. I don't know, she may add some clarity to that, but it was just a cute little thing. Thank you, it's good to see you all. See you.
My name is Tom Joy, and I'm a retired administrator, teacher, parent in this district. And I actually go 3 years further back when Donna Posey and Maria were right next door to my room at Cherry Valley. It was Cherry Valley. There was no Mary Collins School, Cherry Valley. She happened to be there, I think, when Mary came in. Anyway, I just want to talk about how grounded she is. She's a powerful woman, and yet she doesn't, well, for one, she doesn't suffer fools gladly, but she lives in the real world with real kids, real grandkids, and she's had a sensitivity that I think is, quite frankly, unique and wonderful. And Don and I have been over the road a number of times through various elements of our work, and it's well-deserved retirement. And I hope you can retire. It's kind of a challenge for some of us, but you'll probably be in some classroom helping out again. Anyway, I thank the board for taking a moment to recognize, as Chuck said, somebody who really cared about everybody from kids on up. Thank you.
So, Donna, come on up. Donna's never had to do this. First, Donna, come over to the camera. Stand and smile at the camera. Don't open it yet. I just want that picture. David, could you get that for me? There's only been a couple of these passed out, and it's more than deserving to you, so go ahead and open it up. It's, oh gosh, you're gonna have to also introduce your family, because that's what we do after this. It is, well, let me pull it out for you. It's Donna's Shining Star, and it says Donna Bryan's a true professional, PCS, 38 years.
Let me get my voice. First, I'd like to introduce you to my husband, Tom. My daughter, Maria. And my grandsons, Christopher. And Dustin. It was mentioned that I'd probably end up in a classroom after I retire. Well, my daughter's going to present me with a granddaughter in November, so I will be back. Oh my God. This is very important to me to be here and with all of you wonderful students who are receiving the Student of the Month award, because I want to share with all of you that my other daughter, my older daughter Angela, was the first Student of the Month for Petaluma Junior High School when we started. And that's always been a very special, I don't know how I'm trying to speak and I can't. I like to come to the board meetings, and I have come to many board meetings as president of the union, as just in my position as an executive assistant to a chief business official, which is presently is Chris Thomas. And I would purposely come just to listen and to see the kids, to see all of you that are receiving this wonderful award, because I know how hard you've worked and you've always supported by wonderful families. But to sit here and to listen to your accomplishments, your involvement in the community, the goals that you have, it just is a special place in my heart. And I would always come to be reminded of how wonderful we have, of kids that we have in this school district. And I just praise you and good luck with your endeavors and your wonderful parents that you have. Believe me, it takes a community to teach children. Wow, 38 years is a long time. I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but starting out as a volunteer in the classroom, working at Petaluma Junior High School, elementary school secretary at Cherry Valley, working with Chuck, who was my first superintendent. It's very special. Thank you for being here tonight. That's amazing. And then I worked for the grounds and maintenance department and the bookkeeper for the food services department, and in my present position as executive to the chief business official for the school district. I honestly can say in the 38 years, it has been great. It has been wonderful to be a part of taking care of our kids, because when Chuck mentioned, I would always say, you know, how is this decision going to affect our children in that classroom? And Chuck and I wrote the first shared decision-making agreement for classified employees. It was right after the teachers had actually written theirs. And I said, Chuck, why aren't we doing this for classified employees? We're just as much important as that decision is going to be made at the school sites. Mm-hmm. And for years, we practiced that. And I miss that part of it. But I just want to say it's been amazing. And to the board, you guys, I love every one of you, you know that. You just are very special people. And I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of board members. And wow, I gotta say, it's been a great ride. Thank you.
And I want to apologize, and Chris, you should apologize for lying to Donna and telling her she had to come to the board meeting tonight.
You should have heard them. You don't have to be here tonight. And I'm going, but they go, no excuses. You're going to be at the board meeting. I need your help. And I'm going, oh my God, okay. And then all of a sudden I see Chuck walk in the room. And I'm going, wait a minute, what's he doing here? And then I thought, then I turn around and my husband's right there. And I went, oh no, I'm in trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And truly, there aren't very many people that keep the board in line like Donna does. Keeps us our deadlines and gives us a good swift when we need it. We are going to take a brief recess, so students that need to go home and study or prepare for school may do so. We'll reconvene in about 5 minutes. Okay, we're 7.3, presentation, Eric Bachman, principal, and Scott Weigert, secondary teacher at Casa Grande High School, to present the Casa Grande High School college readiness and post-secondary enrollment information. Come on down.
We also have Dr. Dan Osterman, who's CASA's newest assistant principal. He's joining the team tonight, representing Valerie Alston in our college career readiness hub, we call it. Awesome. Welcome. So Dan's going to join us as well. Valerie couldn't make it. So we managed to get on the schedule for this year our annual college and career readiness report to the board. We're excited to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. We are going to change the presentation somewhat, placing emphasis in a few different areas that we wanted you to be more familiar with. In years past, as you may remember, the focus has principally been on college readiness, 2- and 4-year schools. Tonight we want to focus on that, but we also want to focus on the impact we're having supporting kids get to the JC, the Jumpstart program. We want to place special emphasis on the work we're doing to expand CTE course offerings, and really tremendous work being done in the College and Career Center at CASA. And I want to present at the very end some takeaways, some goal setting, and then exciting news we have about the honor roll designation that we've just been given from the Department of Education. Okay, so we're going to lead off with Scott and a tremendous data report that he's been working on for the last couple weeks.
All right, well, thanks for having me to introduce myself. I'm Scott, the math. I guess if you guys ever want to clear out a boardroom, just say there's a math teacher giving a presentation on data.
Yeah, that's right.
So just give me a call. I'd be happy to help. That's what I do for a living. So I have a data release period, and over the years I've been tracking different types of data. And I think what's important is that it tells a story, that it involves real people. It's meaningful not just to administration, but it's meaningful to students and to teachers. So my story today kind of starts off with the CASP scores. Certainly that's the new testing replacing STAR. I created this ranking. I created this, so it's not an official ranking like that. I just kind of picked out large comprehensive high schools that have good reputations for academics, and I wanted to see how CASA stacked up. I threw Tech High in there more as a reference point. I know they're not like us, but certainly I kind of look at them as sort of a measure of what we might kind of shoot for. So in English, we're doing very well. Math also, we're doing very well. We got 51% of our students, juniors, meeting or exceeding the standards, and I've kind of set a goal with my math folks is we want to meet Tech High. I think 100% sometimes a little too much, but I think that's a good goal. I think that's a good target for us to kind of shoot for, and we're working on it. So let's see here. But oh, there we go. Another piece of this that's less obvious, I think, in terms of the actual scores, is this is my missing in action rankings. Not everybody wants to be tested. So we actually have to go out and find them. There are a lot of students who aren't in math. So out of our 399 juniors, we got 391 valid tests, which is huge. If you look at the other schools, honestly, I don't know what was going on with Rio, but the large other schools are missing 40 kids. That's a section and a half of kids that aren't being counted. We think that's important for us as a school, but it's also a measure of, I think, we want to make it important for students. This test is also important for you as it sets a standard for your preparedness beyond that. So again, this is a little something that I just sort of made this up, but I think it's important. I think it just shows you what we do and what we can do when we work together. I've shown this before, just in the past. We've been tracking the actual EAP scores. I think the biggest thing of the last two bars, that's when the CASP began. And I think the main thing to kind of take away from this is it's not always the growth in the ready, but it's the reduction in the not ready. You just kind of look at the blue and look how that's gone over time. We've had a big reduction in that, and that is an improvement. And we'll take any improvement that we can get, because at this point these kids are just juniors, so we still have another year to work with them. Math, the big thing going on in the green part was before CAST, there were a lot of students who weren't even eligible to take the EAP test as part of their STAR test because they weren't in a high enough math class. Now all 11th graders are tested, which is great. It makes it much easier for us to get a sample of everybody. And same, we're steadily making progress on the particular kids who are not ready.
What does EAP stand for, sir?
Early assessment program. It was developed by the CSUs as a way to measure college readiness in their junior year. It's been a big one. The SRJC also honors it. So if students are deemed ready, they don't, when they graduate and they're accepted, they don't have to take the placement test. They don't take remedial classes, that kind of stuff. So we really tried to sell as a student and say, look, this is your placement test now. It's during school. It's not on a Saturday, and you don't have to pay for it. You're gonna have to take this test anyway. So let's do our best on this and see where we can go from that.
And why were they previous years not eligible?
You actually had to be an Algebra 2 or higher. So students who were in geometry as a junior weren't considered even high enough to even take the test.
And now have they changed that cutoff?
It is, because now it's built into the test. So every 11th grader takes the same test, and it's just integrated into the whole test. It's not like two separate pieces. So the test has evolved, and it's pretty good, I think. The other thing is that I go through and I sort of mine the transcripts upon graduation. This is important because, especially in math, you can drop math. So we really try to keep our seniors in math classes, Algebra 2 and higher courses. And then I go through the transcripts and look at, particularly the Ready, you look at, it's a little bit harder to read, is that the year you see there is the junior year that they took the EAP, and then the next year, like the blue one, is actually how many were ready upon graduation. So right here, this class 2016, these guys are ready, these guys were conditional. By the end of senior year, this many of the conditional students became ready by finishing math, getting good scores on the SAT or the ACT. There's multiple criteria for it. So we think that's important because we have one more year to work with them. It's important that we measure that upon exit because it doesn't all end in junior year. So that's kind of what this. So basically we're getting about 85% of all of our conditional students are becoming college ready upon graduation.
Do all juniors and seniors take the EAP, or just juniors?
All juniors, yeah. So there's no testing senior years. We have no measure. So I manually go through the transcripts and figure out who did what. It also gives me a sense of how many kids are taking 4 years of math, 3 years of math, 4 years of math by repeating 2 years of it, that kind of stuff. So we can kind of see really what's going on in the classroom. So this all kind of led to this. I showed this slide before. The big thing for us was basically 1,400 kids over about a 6-year period are going to the Santa Rosa JC. It's a huge, huge audience that we knew was out there, but now we have a number to it. And from that, a number of things sort of have come from this. And the big thing was the Jumpstart program. We sort of schemed this on up about 4 years ago, and the idea on this was let's move the JC application process in parallel with CSU and USC. Why wait till summer? Why put it off? So the number of students in our program, you can see basically has gone up and up and up over the 4 years. The JC, interesting enough, they're actually next year moving their entire application process to mirror Jumpstart. So beginning in the fall, they'll be doing placement testing at the high schools, offering their counseling 270 in the spring instead of the summer. So there's a big movement from the JC. This is really benefiting them. This has been a great partnership. What's interesting too about, and I gave you there's a pink sheet, and there's some more data on this, and there's some narrative. This was a presentation I put together for the JC. They're interested in partnering with us, and this was kind of the little piece I put together for them. So you don't need to, that's what the pink thing is, and at some point when you really want to read about data, if you go to sleep, you can take a look at that. But what's interesting, I think, about what this is our target audience. Our target audience was really just kids just going to the JC. We wanted to change that. But as a result, we've really got an interesting mix of kids who are on free and reduced lunch. Almost half the kids are on it. But again, that's not the target audience. The target audience is just kids going to the JC. When we look at who are the native English speakers, kind of that same thing. We're attracting a lot of English speakers, but a lot of non-native English speakers. But again, not specifically targeting them. There's something I gave you a little more information. It has to do with parent education level. That's another sheet that's kind of in there. So looking at kind of goals for us is that, so basically, on average, we get about 175 kids upon graduation, go to the SRJC. At this point, we've got just over 50% of those kids going through Jumpstart, which means in June, they're ready to go. They're not just getting started like the other 50% of the kids are going, oh man, I guess I better go down there and start placement testing, counseling 270, and that kind of stuff. So this all kind of leads to my partner in the project is actually Valerie Alston. She couldn't make here. I'm just kind of the ringleader. I just kind of stir up the frenzy and get the kids going and herd them through in large groups. But she operates the College and Career Hub. And she's really then the glue that sort of keeps it all together and cleans up kind of the dust that I create behind you. So Dan's coming to tell you about that.
Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
So again, I'm Dan Osterman. I'm super lucky to serve as an assistant principal at Casa Grande High School, my first year here. Valerie's not here tonight. I'll try to embody the spirit of Valerie. She runs the, it's a room about half the size of this room in the counseling wing of Casa Grande, and it's really the mothership of our college and career counseling and advisement services. So I'm certainly not the expert, but I'll try to speak to some of this. Obviously, traditionally, she serves as the advisor for schools, colleges, and universities. A variety of apprenticeships, that's growing. Work-based learning, that's a countywide initiative that SCOs is working with us on. We've had a number of successful partnerships with that, students going out and getting on-the-job training and oftentimes getting hired by these organizations. Military career scholarships, I mean, it's just a small snapshot. Honestly, it's almost, I would say every week, sometimes more than once a week, there's guests in there presenting. Students are being awarded scholarships, there's cake, there's parties, there's club meetings. It's a beehive of activity, and we like it that way. We want to really try to get as much going there as possible. So we're super lucky to have Valerie. I think she's on her third career. This is something she kind of does for fun. Her last real job, not that this isn't a real job, she was head of HR for the Superior Court, I believe was her role. So she brings a tremendous amount of knowledge. She's also a former gaucho. I think she's class of 76. So she's super invested in the community. She's been here for a long, long time. So. Again, also just a very small snapshot of some of the outreach programs that she heads up and is the liaison for, is Tomorrow's Leaders Today. Again, I don't pretend to be an expert on all these. Summer Search, which has apparently a very exciting capstone Costa Rica trip that many of our students are going to be taking this summer, fully funded. The Summer Career Health Institute, 10,000 Degrees, Boise State, Students Rising Above. I mean, we could probably list 50 or 60 more on there. I don't mean to breeze through that, but again, we just really, we're lucky to have Valerie, and she's doing an amazing job. I also wanted to speak to CT expansion at CASA, which I can speak more about personally. I kind of oversee that department, and we're very excited. On the bottom there is I encourage you to test out that website there, CASA-Collective. So that's a new web-based e-commerce platform that we're launching in the fall. It's kind of in a test phase, beta phase now, and it's pretty fleshed out online. It's very impressive, built by students in the entrepreneurship class that we host at CASA. For next year, we're hosting 2 sections, so there's an expansion there. So in that e-commerce platform, Superintendent Callahan might decide Monday morning, I really need to get my oil changed, so he could drive his car over to CASA, which is now the Gaucho Garage. I should put that slide in there, the picture. Gaucho Garage. Cool. And then maybe we could buzz him back to the district office in our new electric car that the kids are going to be building as a kit that we kind of took semi-permanently from Annalee High School. So we were able to get that on campus. So the auto program, I put at the top of the list there, it's growing super fast. We're going full-time next year. We got a $60,000 grant from the CTE Foundation to pay for our 5th section. We have a new teacher, he's just doing an amazing job. I mentioned the electric car kit. Culinary is doing great. We're going to get that van going. And design, if you have any need for t-shirts, hats, stickers, any kind of, we have vinyl cutters, what do we have? 3D print made,
yeah, the metal
3D printers.
Cardi.
I mean, there's all these bizarre machines. One came from China. So really some fun, exciting tools, and entrepreneurship, running a robotics class next year. So again, kind of a hive of activity. I think we all recognize the importance of giving our students who are not necessarily university track a lot of experience and interesting things for them to do that are hands-on campus. So that's our CTE program. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Great.
Wow.
And if I might just add a plug for the auto shop teacher, I was over there the other day with Mr. Osterman and the auto shop teacher, Jim.
Yeah, Jim Rowley.
And he showed us the tool closet And I actually took pictures to take home to show my husband because this is a thing of beauty. I mean, it is so organized. It's just amazing. You have to go, if you have a chance to go there and see what he's done with this auto shop and just how impressive the organization of that auto shop is. It's really quite, and I saw it, I had the great fortune of seeing it when I first got here last August, September, so I kind of had the before and after experience, but it really is pretty amazing. So I just want to say I was duly impressed, and I have the pictures if anybody wants to see it.
Yeah, Chris, I can piggyback on that in the transition here. So auto at CASA has grown from 3 sections when I got the job as principal to 4 and now 5. And that 5th section is funded by the CTE Foundation for the next 3 years. And that's a grant that Dan wrote and we were excited to receive in the fall. And of course, a program grows like this because of the teacher and word of mouth. And just like the college and career hub at CASA, the auto shop is a buzz of energy right now. There are kids in it all the time, and they love this new teacher. He was an elementary school teacher at St. Vincent, and applied for the job because he was interested in teaching older kids, came to us with a social studies degree, and landed this auto shop job, and it's just a perfect fit. He's amazing. And the CASA Collective, just a word about that, that is primarily being funded with CTIG funds. We've worked with Gary and Cliff and Chris for the last year. We're looking at an investment of about $170,000 over the next 2 years. It includes a catering van for our culinary program, all this new machinery, a new Apple computer lab for the expansion of entrepreneurship. We're genuinely interested in launching this CASA Collective, which will showcase student services and student-made products online for not just the CASA community, but all of Petaluma. It's a big vision. We're going to start small, move methodically, but we've got the personnel in place and we've got the grant funding in place to make it happen. So one step at a time, but it's promising and exciting. And of course brings all those CTE teachers together in a common project where typically CTE teachers are remote islands doing their own thing. And that's what I think is so unique about this program. Beginning to wrap up, so some key takeaways. I would like the board to know that our CASP scores are strong and improving. We're only 2 years in, but CASA is one of the top performing schools in the county. We've seen, as Scott pointed out, significant reduction in students who are not ready. And so if the goal is college readiness, probably a good place to start is eliminating those who are not ready. So we're proud of that. We've also seen notable growth in students who are conditionally ready. And that group who we need to address during their senior year has become a primary focus, particularly in the math department, as Scott said. We're trying to keep those seniors in high-level math classes so that they finish college ready. And we're seeing about 85% positive rate of completion for that student population. Jumpstart is, in my experience as an administrator, the most successful thing we've done. And I say that just to reiterate the point. We're not targeting any specific group, but we happen to be very successful with the groups that we want to target in this district. And I've never seen a program do that. Typically, you buy into programs that focus on one group of kids, socioeconomic disadvantage, second language learners, right? 66% of Jumpstart kids are first generation college going kids. And we're not trying to do that. We're just offering a program that we know the students need, right? We're honoring that number of 1,400 kids who are going to the JC. What do they need? And they happen to be first generation college going kids. 50% are second language learners, 50% are socioeconomic disadvantage, right? It's really a nod to equity, which we're so proud of, and we're getting a lot of traction at the JC, so we'll see where it goes. And then of course, the exciting CTE expansion at CASA is really fun to watch and something we'll pay close attention to. Goal setting. So this was actually a brilliant statement that Scott made. So last year we spent a lot of time talking to the board about the 30% of CASA kids, roughly, who go to four-year schools, the 50% who go to two-year, typically the JC, and how that trend has been very consistent as long as we've watched it. It ticks up, it ticks down, but more or less 30%, 50%. Our goal at this point is to make certain, or as certain as possible, that 100% of the 30% are ready to go when they hit the ground at a four-year school. And most importantly for us, 100% of the 50% who go to the JC are ready to go. And that's where Jumpstart fits in. We're making sure those kids are ready to roll, that they're not tripping and stumbling as they enter the fall semester without the classes they want, without an idea of where they want to go. As I've said, we want to focus a lot of resources and attention on those juniors who test conditionally ready in math and English. We're seeing a slow increasing trend of our A through G rate. We've moved it in the last 3 years from 37% to 42%, so we're going to keep working on that. As we all know, that's way too low for a district like this. So an area of focus. Continue to focus on Jumpstart. We're excited to begin to align the Jumpstart program with our small learning communities. So for example, Jumpstart kids who are in CASA's healthcare pathway, that they are not only in Jumpstart, but they're looking specifically at what the JC has to offer to students interested in health, right? Kids who are in our innovation cluster doing all that e-commerce, construction, and design, they're looking at the JC to determine what they have to offer when they hit the ground there. So that's work that's going to begin this year. And then we're looking forward to a successful launch of the CASA Collective, Mr. Callahan getting his oil changed, out to the garage. That'll be a sign of success.
Especially since he has an electric car.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Fix those too.
Yeah. To conclude, perhaps it's where we should have started, but right, just a reminder that probably the most important LCAP goal we have is college and career readiness. And at CASA, we've fine-tuned it a little bit. We're a little more specific. College career readiness with a special focus on these traditionally underperforming groups. And we're doing it in a way that isn't explicit. And that's what's really exciting. And I wanted to share some language with you all in conclusion from the letter that was sent to me from the folks who designated Casa Grande as a California honor roll school. I think that what they're saying is very consistent with the message we're delivering tonight, that the award is given because we're making a difference preparing kids for college and career, typically those who are left behind. So the 2016 honor roll recognizes public, elementary, middle, and high schools that demonstrate consistently high levels of student academic achievement, improvement in achievement over time, and reduction in achievement gaps. For high schools, honor roll recognition includes measures of college readiness in students. This year, the California Honor Roll recognized 1,866 higher performing, higher poverty schools that are distinguished for their academic achievement and in closing the achievement gap, and deploying resources and guidance to support schools' efforts to prepare all students for college and career. That seems the best place we could end tonight. And I want to give a shout out to my colleagues here. So Scott has done really remarkable work consistently year after year, and we're really beginning to see a picture, a trend of what this work has generated. It allows us to see where kids are so we can address their needs. And then of course, welcome to Dr. O, as we call him. He has hit the ground running at CASA, and probably the best example we have is the explosion of energy around CTE. So I want to acknowledge my colleagues.
Thank you.
So,
Scott, my only question is, knowing what a great advocate you are in support of youth cycling, is how come we're not building bicycles yet?
Well, actually, I was down in Redwood High, the factory, and out there, behind one of their buildings, they had all these bikes. Yeah, I saw piles of them.
If anybody would know how to build one, it would be you. Thank you, guys.
I have a question, oh, sorry, who funds the Jumpstart program?
I'm sorry?
Who funds the Jumpstart program?
Well, there's actually no cost. I mean, the only cost is that I got the release period, which kind of got the data piece going, and then I got this idea with other counselor, and we just sort of started it. So there's really there is no cost to it, other than, and then Valerie, the time it takes her, but there's no, and oh yeah, we bought 2 cakes this year, and for the certificate, so that was like $100 for cakes.
Give that receipt to
So it goes through your counseling program, basically.
Kind of, but there is no cost. That's the other amazing thing about it. I mean, there's some paper for some copies, but there's no cost.
And are they doing it at Petaluma High School now?
Yes. I mean, actually, based on our model, the JC has gone to, I think, Sonoma High, Rancho, and Petaluma. So they're a couple of years behind us in terms of, and you gotta get the right combination of people, I think, doing it too. That's what
All of the things that you guys are doing over there is exactly what we need for students to get them excited about school and find careers for after school and get excited about the possibilities of not only going to college, but what will be there for them when they get there. I was out briefly a couple weeks ago, and I also stopped by the hatchery. Actually, I went specifically out to visit the hatchery. And just that school, everything you guys are doing, it's so exciting. Great job. It's so exciting.
Good job.
You got your students to take the test, because without the data, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's it.
so it's gotta go like garbage in, garbage out. But you guys got the highest percentage of students take a test, which is huge. So I don't know how you stimulated them or what you did, but that's awesome, because you saw that one school had 104 missing. So kudos to you guys. However you inspired them to do that, and whatever message, you might want to package up and sell it to all the other high schools, because it's key, right? To get the data.
Yeah, they don't take it.
So good job, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you for coming.
Thanks. Good stuff.
Yeah, the website, Eric, too, is amazing. I'm surprised they're not gonna be able to make enough fidget spinners once the kids see the fidget spinners around there. Okay, we are still at presentations. All right, Chris, how is your May revised and budget update for 17-18? Gonna talk that. You got a couple fidget spinners in your purse?
As a former CASA math student.
Starting to throw names around.
I know.
You must have been with the inaugural class that graduated out there.
And I want to also point out that I graduated in the 80s.
I agree.
Just to clarify that,
Not
because I saw some
75.
looks. So anyway.
If you could get us a copy of her transcript, that would just simply pride that we wouldn't share it with too many people.
I think we stored here at this point.
Frank's donating $100 per GPA point. That's what I was trying to tell you.
Okay, I'm passing down.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your evening.
I'm passing down a copy of the budget. Can you hand that up?
A pocket budget.
A pocket budget.
Oh, this is our budget.
For those of you who have pockets, we want to keep that with you at all times.
You probably should.
This is going to be a very brief presentation. I don't have it right now.
I like it.
I just want to point out a couple of highlights from the governor's May revise. As you know, the governor comes out in January with his budget proposal for the upcoming year. In May, once the legislative analyst's office comes out with their projections based on revenue receipts through April, he revises his budget proposal called the May revise. It will then go into budget committees, and then will come out and be presented to the governor for approval in June.
And you actually went and listened to it?
I went and listened to it, yes. Very stimulating. Mr. Callahan was there, as was Cam Keller, a director of budget accounting. So a couple of just highlights. Really not a lot of new stuff in the budget. There's really not a lot of money. I know publicly $1 billion in Prop 98. But as we've all known over the years, the governor and the legislature shift things in and out of Prop 98 to really be able to say, yes, there's $1 billion more, but whether or not we actually see that money is always a big question mark. So for example, some good news is that in the January budget proposal, he was proposing a 23.67% of gap funding That's up to 43.97%. Now, 43.97% sounds like a lot, but
It's up.
93% of the gap has been closed. So it's really, 43, 44% of 7%. So that's still only 3.5 to 4% of gap funding. If you think about the first year, we had almost 12% of 100%. That was a lot more money. So we're really looking at, with this budget proposal, having the gap funded at 97%. So it is better news than we had in January, but it's still, 43% of not a lot of money. COLA is up a little bit. Remember, the cost of living adjustment is defined by statute. So once the April revenues come in, we know what the statutory, that's what we call the statutory COLA, and it went up slightly from a 1.48% to a 1.56. And just to remind you, this year's COLA was 0. So the fact
What does that mean?
So the base funding, we have those four rates that we get as base funding, right? So the COLA means the base goes up by a dollar amount. The COLA is a percent, but they turn that into a dollar amount. So for example, at K3, we currently get $7,083 per student at target. So remember, this is always at target, which we're not at yet. But if we were at target, we'd be getting $7,083. COLA means that's going to go up by $110. So they apply the COLA, the 1.53, they convert it into a dollar amount. And so where this year we're getting $7,083, assuming we were at target, and then next year we get $7,193 per student, per ADA. And that goes up for rates. So K3, it's $110, 4-6, $112, 7-8, it's $115, and 9-12, it's $134. That's what the COLA conversion is. But the challenge is, because we're not at target, we don't get 100% of that. We're going to get 97% of that, assuming the gap closure is at 43.97. So if we were in 2021, we would be seeing all of that, but because we're not there yet, we don't see 100%. That's why it's really confusing during this transition time.
So when you say the COLA is actually 0?
This year, in 16-17,
Oh, got it.
the 7,083, the 7,083 we're getting this year is the same amount we got last year, because it didn't get increased by COLA, because COLA was 0. So the statutory COLA, because of all of the factors that lead into it for this year, was a 0 COLA. But for next year, it's 1.56%, okay? So that's in relationship to our LCFF funding. And remember, that's what the factors that we're going to be using are going to go up by that amount. But the majority of our revenue is driven by ADA, or our projected ADA, based on what our projected enrollment is going to be. So we could get additional COLA, we could get additional gap funding, but if our enrollment declines, our revenue will be flat or will decline. So all this is saying is that the factors we're going to use are going to go up a little bit, but it's really driven by our enrollment. And so we're hoping we have to bring you at the next board meeting, June 13th, here's our LCFF calculation estimates based on what we believe P2 will be next April 18th. So we have to project what our ADA will be a year from now. And that's what we'll be doing in the adopted budget, or the preliminary budget that we bring forward. A little bit about one-time money, if you'll recall, January, the governor had proposed some one-time funding. He proposed about $48 per ADA, or per ADA. It was about $335,000 for us. He has increased that to $170 per ADA, which sounds good on paper, but he's basically saying there's a big caveat to that, which is, okay, we're gonna increase your one-time money. You won't get it until spring of 2019, and only if revenues hold strong. So for me, it's a non-starter for 18-19, for 17-18. It really means it's one-time money for 18-19 maybe.
Kind of.
Yes. So it's kind of typical with Governor Brown. He tends to be a very conservative governor. What he says, and the overarching message, is that although our unemployment rate is down, we're almost as low as the national average, so we've almost come down to what the national average is. Job growth has remained strong, but things are slowing. And what they're seeing on the horizon, we've got 8 years of recovery, and that's 2 years beyond a normal recovery. And so it's been a very slow 8 years of recovery, And they expect that to start not only slowing, but potentially hitting a slight downturn. Who knows when that will happen? It's California. It doesn't follow exact cycles that you can predict exactly when that downturn will happen. But he believes that's on the horizon, not for 17-18, but potentially for 18-19. And so
we won't get that money.
which is why he is putting that caveat on there and saying, you know what, let's wait and see. So we cannot plan for the one-time money. So the good news is the ongoing revenues are up about 300,000 roughly, you know what I mean? So our ongoing money, he's increasing with that gap funding increase and a COLA increase. The bad news is the one-time money, we're not gonna include in the preliminary budget that we bring forward to you. Child nutrition is gonna get a little money, but I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. There's some preschool alignment programs, but we don't participate in state pre-K, so I don't believe we're gonna benefit. I know it's out there that state pre-K, they're looking at funding additional slots and giving some increases in revenue, but we have preschool programs that we operate, but they're not state pre-K programs. We don't get state funding to support those.
Do we get ADA for those?
No, because we only get ADA for transitional kinder, which is 4-year-olds who turn 5 between September 1st and December 2nd roughly, and beyond. So we don't get any funding. We charge parents for preschool slots, etc. All the other detail is in the pocket budget. It's there for your reading pleasure. And you know, there's some dartboard projections on the back that we'll be using for our multi-year projections. But really, we're in the process of taking this information, collecting lots of other assumptions. We're working, HR and business is working almost daily at this point, reconciling position control, making sure we're ready to roll that into the budget. We're collecting assumptions like our workers' comp rate, property and liability. Property and liability is actually going down a little bit.
Wow.
Workers' comp is going up.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, we're up, we're down, we're up, we're down, and until I can pull it all together, I don't know where it's gonna end up. But when we come back on June 13th, we will have a preliminary budget for you, and you'll have a much better idea. I do wanna yes, Frank.
I just had a question. If enrollment was flat as of P2 for this year, did I hear you say that the additional income that we would have would be $300,000 above what we had this year? Or is it, or what does it mean? I mean, how much more money are we gonna have flatline ADA? Just
Hold on just a second, quick. That's a great question. Until I plug in all the numbers, I don't know. I can tell you that when I analyzed December's factors versus January's, so December was first interim, and then we had the May revised, and we used, the January budget proposal, which we used for second interim. Our ongoing revenue dropped by roughly 300,000 because the COLA was lower and because the gap funding was lower.
Okay.
But he was putting about 300,000 one-time funding, so it was kind of a wash. But we lost ongoing, and he added one-time, which was not really an apples to apples wash.
Right.
Now we're kind of got the opposite. So I don't know the exact numbers because I haven't actually done the calculations, but my guess is it's going to be probably in the range of about $300,000-ish more than what we had predicted in January, or second interim.
And this is for 16, 17?
For 17, 18, where all of this is going to be for next year. We will bring a final budget revision to you on June 13th as well, because that creates the foundation, because this year's ending fund balance creates the foundation for next year's budget and how we look long-term. So we will be bringing a budget revision and then the preliminary budget so that you'll have a good idea of where we predict this year based on what we know now, and then how we're projecting for next year. Yes.
Quick question, can you explain lottery funding? I'm sorry. How do we get lottery money?
That's a great question. So lottery funding comes to us in two parts. It comes to us in unrestricted lottery, and that's about $148 per ADA, lottery ADA, which is different. I'll explain that in a second.
Okay.
And then we get about 41, 42, 43, depends on the year, in Prop 20 restricted lottery funding. Lottery ADA is different ADA for three reasons, really. Number one, it's based on annual ADA, not P2, which is on or about April 15th. It's also based on prior year ADA instead of current year ADA. and it's factored by 1.0441%. And the reason it's factored is because back in the 90s, when we first started getting lottery money, we had excused absences that was included in our ADA. Remember that back in the day? Excused absences counted. And then they changed it and they said, no, excused absences don't count towards your ADA. We no longer include those in our ADA calculations. So they factored lottery ADA because excused absence rates were around 4.5%. So they factored the ADA for lottery based on that 4.441% in order to equalize the loss of excused absences back in the 90s. So, I know. We actually get several different pots because we do a calculation for every charter and for South County and for both of our districts. So we calculate lottery revenues twice for about 16 times. So anyway, that's how it works.
Okay. I have a question. Sorry, in the first paragraph of this pamphlet it says, in fact, ongoing funding for education increases by nearly 1.4 billion. And we had a gentleman speak at public comment. So what, is that obviously deceptive or it's not?
Yeah, well, it's not deceptive. It's just, it's not clear. So 1 billion, remember, LCFF has created this huge inequity in funding, right?
Right.
And so Prop 98 is going up by roughly 1.4 billion, but things are coming in and out of Prop 98. So for example, he had a deferral, and I think it talks about the deferrals a little bit. So he was deferring revenue that we were counting as this year's revenue or next year's revenue, whatever you want to say. He was deferring, we would get the cash in July. We would recognize the revenue in 16-17, but the state would book the revenue in, we would recognize the revenue in 16-17, the state would book the revenue in 17-18. So it was kind of a cash game, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So he's eliminating that deferral and saying, okay, you're really gonna get the cash in June now, because we have a little more revenue. So Prop 98 goes up, but it's just a cash change, doesn't impact our revenue at all. So he basically, it's like this. If you we get paid once a month in public education generally. So if we get a check on June 30th, which we generally do, and we said, you know what, we want to save 1 month of payroll, so we're going to issue checks on July 1st, and we're going to book them in next year. You're still going to get a paycheck at the end of the month, but you're going to get it July 1st instead of June 30th. It's a different fiscal year. And so we're not going to show those expenditures as of June 30th. We're going to show them in July 1st. You're still going to get your cash, and you're still going to pay taxes on it and all of that, but we're deferring it by 1 day, which is really 1 year. It's a fiscal year. That's in essence what the state has done. So to save money, they say, okay, you're going to get this money. You can book it. You can include it in your budget and set up an accrual for it, a receipt, but we're going to count it as next year's cash. So by moving that from one fiscal year back into this fiscal year, or vice versa, he can show that Prop 98 is actually funded at a higher level. So those are the types of things that happen at the state level. Is it accurate that it's gone up 1.4 billion? Yes. Does it mean districts are getting 1.4 billion more revenue? No.
I see.
Category.
And I'm sorry I'm talking so fast, I'm trying to get through this.
Chris, real quick.
It's just a lot of information. It's good.
In light of all this, I mean, go over real quickly just the financial advantage of having charter schools versus our the schools that are non-charter. We have our comprehensive high schools. So the financial advantage of that, just in a nutshell.
Sure. 30 seconds or less?
Yeah.
So there used to be greater financial advantage under the former LCFF because under the former revenue limit, because under the former way that districts were funded, charters got a charter block grant, and so it was different. The LCFF was the great equalizer, ironically, when it came to districts versus charter schools. It was the unequalizer when it came to districts comparing to each other because of the way supplemental concentration grant funding works and population changes. In general, though, if you think about Prop 39, which is our energy, if you think about like Career Tech gets some of the grants that we get, charters get a minimum of a certain dollar amount. I'm trying to think of a good example. The college readiness grant is an example. College readiness, we got a certain dollar amount per college age student or high school student. But there was a minimum of 75,000. So if you were a small district, you got a minimum of 75,000, or you got this rate per student that would be over the 75. Well, we got 75,000 for a charter school that has, actually it was for South County generated students because we had high school students in the elementary, and we got that $75,000 because that was the minimum. Where if we hadn't had a charter like that or that type of organization, it would have just been a few thousand more as part of our grant. So there are situations, Prop 39 is one of them. Some of our charters like Cherry Valley actually got their own Prop 39 funding, and a lot of times there's a minimum, and so we would then get the minimum. But other than that, there's not, there's some financial incentive with startup charters, there's some additional one-time money when you're starting a charter. But generally speaking, the LCFS calculations are the same, whether you're a charter or a non-charter.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's what I'd read, and I just wanted to see your opinion.
So I just want to hand this out. This is an excerpt from the budget advisory work that's been happening. Now you can hand it out, please. So the budget advisory committee has been working really hard on identifying certain areas for the superintendent to recommend. We're going to be bringing a recommendation through the superintendent at the preliminary budget. And I just wanted to provide an excerpt from what that report. We've drafted this. The budget advisory committee has seen all of these line items, but they haven't yet seen the actual report. We're bringing this to them on Thursday. So they're going to be seeing, and there's a few more pages to it, but this is kind of an excerpt from the draft report we're going to be presenting to them on Thursday, and that we're hoping to then bring back with their input when we bring the preliminary budget on June 13th. So with that, are there any other questions? And these shouldn't be a surprise. These are all lists that you've seen before. There's nothing new. There's some additional areas based on the input we received through the staff meetings that our principals had that are on here, on other areas that we might want to take a look at, some of which are in progress, like the people transportation review that's happening. And then just some current practices that we can consider that, we'll be looking at as a district, how can we implement that?
Well, and some of these are practices and some of these are cuts.
Yes.
Like, transferring certificated deduction program fees to Title II, that's finding how to fund something legally that frees up general fund money, but getting rid of the district accountant position and the services secretary and laying off the district administrator, and those are people.
And you'll notice the first 3 or 4 or 5 line items, tend to be the biggest dollars and yet also the least painful from many perspectives. Restructuring the debt, tapping into the solar savings, reducing the contribution to capture.
How are you doing that?
Reduction.
How are you doing that?
We're doing it.
Positions and what else?
Well, we're implementing a supper program, which is
that's
a
right.
beefed up. We are looking at revisiting some of how we do delivery for some of our feeder districts. How can we restructure some of that to be more efficient? So we're looking at lots of ways. We're also reevaluating the warehouse and how much of that really truly should be charged to the warehouse and how much of that is really general fund. We're actually doing that this year in this year's budget, and trying to restructure those positions so that they're actually doing more maintenance. We have some tremendous skill side in the staff people that we have in the warehouse.
Yeah.
So can that be aligned to our routine restricted maintenance and focus the resources there? So we're doing it through lots of different ways, not just eliminating positions. So we'll continue to chink away at that. We already made a dent when we brought the revised budget at second interim. So Ray is, doing a great job.
It'd be nice sometime on the agenda to have a presentation from food services, just because that's one place, parents ask about a lot.
Absolutely.
And I think if they knew how complicated it was to try to have a breakfast and lunch program for 7,000 students under the nutritional guidelines. And it was such an eye-opener to me when I got involved on how much work it is.
We just went through, I'll just do a plug for Mr. DiGiamo. We just went through a very, very in-depth USDA/California Department of Ed food service review, technical assistance and review, and I mean, it was pretty comprehensive, and we learned a lot. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to validate the work that Ray and his team do. And I think that it was very clear to the review team that we have a good program here. And that, yeah, there's some technical things that we need, this board policy needs to be tweaked a little bit or this. But generally speaking, I would say that we got an A. And we had one of the toughest reviewers in the state. So,
I hear some districts go through with it's just like, it could be a year or two to get their food services program.
We're waiting for the final review, but when I sat with Ray during the exit interview, and most of the corrective action items we're going to have, we've already implemented.
That's great.
So I was very, very proud of the work that Ray and his team had done.
Yeah, I think people think they just serve up sandwiches and serve up food, and
it's a very tough industry.
The figure that you have to enter, all the nutritional value of every food item and what's going to be served on the plate together, and how tough it is to make that meal meet the standards. I mean, I remember when we were looking at bringing in Amy's organic, which didn't meet the standards.
Well, and
that
it's a matter
crazy.
of
Like, how does
I hope the standards are loosening up though.
Well, we'll see.
Going back to a little more
Hope a little bit.
flexibility
It'd be nice if we
with
could have
schools.
French fries again.
It's a matter of
once in a while, they have a baby.
versus making sure that the kids know they have to choose 3 versus, I mean,
Right.
it's such a, well, I'm sorry, I observed that, yeah,
A
the
child
kids took
didn't take-
3, or they didn't take 3, but you didn't really offer or make sure they knew they had to take 3. I mean, literally, it's very, very, so yes, it's, I appreciate the acknowledgement, but our team did a great job.
I saw that you had here on your committee recommendations, close the elementary school, which I'm glad that you put that on the list, or whoever put that there. Because I think it's really important for everybody to understand that.
Where is that again?
That's
That's based on the
committee also
feedback,
recommends
that's just based on the feedback we received.
Because but I think it's important for a couple of reasons. One, what's a premium or optimum size for an elementary school, and at what point below that number do you have to start saying, if the state says, hey, ideally if you have an elementary school of 350 kids, it's a go. If you have anything below X, then you need to start taking a look at it. In my opinion, it would be good to have those numbers not only for elementary, but for middle school and for high school, not necessarily when you're doing this. But I think there's a cost associated with running schools. Right. And there's a cost associated for us as we look at it as to how small can you go, still provide the best possible curriculum program you can without bankrupting the district in the process. And I think there's got to be a number that's associated with that. And people need to know that if you run a premium program, which everybody wants to run, at a minimum number of students, there is a cost associated with that.
Do you have an idea of a low enrollment number?
Well, Frank asked that one time, he wanted
Yeah,
that
there's
number.
CSBA or somebody's got, I mean, they have, ideally, this is a school, because it also speaks to staffing ratios for teachers, it speaks to staffing ratios for administrators, so.
Yeah, there's, it's really situational, so we'd have to go in and take a look at that. Educationally, I can tell you, I've lived through lots of those reviews, and really, ideally, you would have a school that has at least 2 classes per grade level. I mean, that's the ideal, because you have the opportunities for grade level collaboration and so on and so forth. But I also see models where, they do combined classes where they're, they've got looping going on and other things, and so there's an argument to be made that you could have a successful program like that. So I think it's complicated. I don't think it's just about the dollar. I think there's also an educational component, but
And I think you have to match the two. I'm not just saying one should outshine the other, but we need to know.
And what we try to be is very transparent in the feedback that we received, so that some of it's doable, some of it's not doable, but we're wanting to capture the ideas And so these are not necessarily all recommendations, they're just things, ideas that people had that we wanted to be transparent about. So I just want to be clear, you know, we're not necessarily recommending closing the school, but that may be, that was a suggestion that we should look at, so we wanted to make sure it was included.
Chris, in your experience too, sometimes, I mean, I know in the private sector, you would say, okay, we're gonna have 3% cut, let's say we need to reduce, you came up with a certain number to tell us next year, like, look, you guys, you're behind the 8 ball here, we've got to have blank dollars in budget reductions, or expense reductions in order to, you know, have the adequate reserves and keep the county off our back or the state off our board.
The state off our board.
Yeah, no, so in private sector, sometimes you come in and say, look, we're just going to do a 5% cost cut across the board. So you look at your pie chart, right? So if facilities are 10%, well, 5% is, you know, not 5% of that 10% is getting cut. If labor, like I think our labor component is, like I think it's trending up 87, 88%. So 5% would come off of labor, and I know we have at least 3 or 4 labor circles, right, inside that 87%. It doesn't seem like school districts often do that. It seems like they almost like glom on one aspect of it, like, okay, we're going to cut facilities, or we're going to cut supplies, or we're going to cut this. Or sometimes maybe they go, hey, we're just going to make all those cuts on the back of, you know, our labor pool. Is there a reason for that, or is that just?
You know, school districts operate on such a narrow margin of discretionary, flexible money that usually, our greatest cost, as you just pointed out, is in people. And we have lots of contracts, both our classified contract and our certificated contract, that we have to follow. And so in the school district environment, you have to take a look at, you know, we could say, let's cut 20% or 10% or 5% of our instructional staff, but if that puts us below our contractual staffing ratios, we can't do it. So we have to be very thoughtful, both from an educational perspective, from a contract perspective, and from a community program perspective, that it can't be done, that it's just not effective to be able, if you had huge schools in a huge environment like LA Unified, maybe you could do that, but in a small community like Petaluma with small schools, that's not how you're not going to be able to identify enough money in practicality to balance a budget, and so it just doesn't work that way. I mean, we could cut the school's discretionary money by 10%, and that might gain $50,000. That's not going to balance the budget. So because the majority of our money is in people, we have to go to things like, and frankly, I think it's more effective to go to things like staffing ratios and to, you know, do a lot of the work that we've been doing. And plus, the schools themselves need to kind of to give that level of input. And there have been districts who have said, okay, school, here's your money to operate: custodial, campus security, teachers, administrative staff. And then they might say, you know what, we're going to keep all of this, but we're going to cut all of our custodians. Then there's health and safety issues. So, you know, I think and then there's, do you create inequity between your schools because this school chooses to have fewer? I'm just going to pick on custodial support. This school's not going to have adequate custodial, but this one. So I think from a practical perspective, but also from an equitable perspective, most districts find it more equitable.
Yeah, because the hardest thing for it, and this is just, I don't know, maybe too many years in education. I'm a recovering superintendent. As much as we don't want to talk about it, the reality of it is the success of a school on an individual basis is based upon its zip code and its demographics. Because the funding varies from parent community to parent community. And I think, not in Petaluma, but at a state level, we need to come to grips with the fact that as much as we talk about equity and educational funding, it's all driven by, you know, what zip code or area code you happen to be living in. Because I would venture to say that we have students that live on this side of town that get fairly good funding based upon a parent's ability to raise dollars, as opposed to somebody who's on the other side of the freeway who doesn't have the same parent input or enough financial backing in order to create some sort of a foundation or whatever. And I don't, there's no answer. I mean, it's just, but we need to come to grips with the fact that there is an inequity that's built in there. I don't know what the solution is, but I think we need to keep throwing that on the table so people understand that that's there. You know, it's the whole thing for me about the LCFF funding versus the basic aid. Right? I mean, there's no equity in that. And the equity that Gary pointed out, you know, with this district raising the fact that there was an inequity even in the LCFF funding. I mean, I'm really 100% behind whatever we can do as a board to do something about that. That's critical.
Yeah.
There are some things at a local level I've seen several districts do successfully, but not easily. And it takes a lengthy period of time to get there, which is to have, you know, a kiddo as an example in Mill Valley, say yes or yes to something in Ross Valley. They have a foundation where they have literally said and worked really hard over a number of years to get a buy-in from all of the PTAs to say we are all going to fundraise for the foundation, and then the foundation is going to support equal programs in all the schools.
Well, Sherry
And
did some.
but it's not an easy venture because it's very difficult to get, and they usually come up with a compromise that, okay, if I'm a PTA at a particular school, we're gonna fundraise 200,000, we're gonna keep 25% of it, and 75% of it goes to the foundation, and then the foundation funds art K5 or music K6 or whatever it is, and so that's one way, one strategy that districts, but it is a lengthy educational process to get there. It's not easy.
Sherry did something in a microcosm like that because when she first got on board, she noticed a real obvious inequity, which was, I think it was McKinley School, those sixth graders weren't going to camp. And other schools, because it was parent fundraising. And yet the understanding was camp's really important to the curriculum, and everybody kind of agreed that it was a good, you know, what was it, bonding before you go to junior high school. So Sherry identified that and said, look, if it's good for these schools, it's got to be good for this school, and made it happen. And I forget where the funding came from, but whatever.
Well,
there was a camp, and I think the district actually stepped up.
We started a district, and we still have it, a district scholarship. However, then Matthew Harris came to McKinley
And made the fundraising happen.
and started fundraising.
But the point was, she recognized it, so we did have it here, and we still have it here, I think, to some extent, like Frank said.
But I will tell you, I was horribly embarrassed recently in this regard because of negotiations and because of things that are going on and because of all the things that we talk about. Realizing the difference when you talk about appreciating teachers and where a lot of them feel appreciated. To be honest, a little ironically, that for example, holiday gifts that the teachers at my child's school gets, and the end of the year gifts, as opposed to the teacher gifts that occur at McDowell. And I was a little embarrassed when I thought of all the community service I've been involved in. How did that not smack me in the face the 6 years I've been on this board? That what I helped fundraise for my child's teacher every year, my good friend Kiri Bailey gets a bag of cookies that somebody was hungry and ended up eating while she was not in the classroom.
So that goes to her point, which is
that's happening in our district.
Fundraise to a central.
And those are our
body.
teachers,
And
and
then
those
just
are our kids, you know, and that is something I think, as a result, just recently I've reached out to some of my other moms, not as a position on this board, but said, we need to do an adopt a teacher, or we need to do something, you know, because, anyway,
we need to do a Chris
so I can see how getting PTA buy-in
do a
to
master
the whole
PTA.
district.
I mean, we have Petaluma Educational Foundation, which
Right.
Yeah.
supports all
Could
of
handle
them.
that.
Right, that's
But
awesome.
limited things.
Yeah.
Limited things.
But to what Chris said, maybe, you know, master PTA that then is, you know, each school is represented and it gets dispersed equitably.
Anyway, we're digressing, my apologies.
No,
It's a
as
lot.
we
It's a lot
discussed,
right now
hey,
to talk about
it
money.
goes to the budget, everything counts, because
It's all about, it's about kids. It's, you know, it stands out.
Well, I will tell you, Chris, some of the things you've said in the past of our numbers with the structural deficits and some of the cuts. You're thinking if things just don't go hunky-dory at the state, we may end up having to make, and to Frank's point, we gotta get out in front of it. It's not gonna be cutting pencils and, you know, not using both sides of the copy paper. I mean, you know, every penny helps, but it's bigger and more structural than that. So.
But see that you're working on it.
And these
Yeah.
recommendations will come before us in the form of the budget in June?
Well, and some of the items are on our action
Some will,
items
some
tonight.
will, some will, but some have already been.
The top portion with the dollars, many of these are going to be incorporated into the preliminary budget that we're recommending. The lower portion will really be the items that will take longer term discussion and consideration and analysis to actually determine viability and does it even create any savings. So there's the top portion, which is why we kind of structured it that way. Like the solar savings, we're going to incorporate in. The debt service, we're going to incorporate in. Some of the reductions, we're going to incorporate in. So
Most of these items are not ones that will come in front. They'll be the ones that are after this. This is just the first phase. These are the easy ones. You know, we're behind the 8 ball on some of this. We're not getting in front of it. We're way behind it, and we need to. These are the easy ones. It'll be the ones after this.
Well, and some things that we have on the action item tonight.
Yeah. So
are not exactly.
and some of it will be based. Some of it will be driven by what does our enrollment look like in August and September when school opens. I mean,
we knew that, you know, there's an old adage, you never want to be, you never want to be a superintendent in a declining enrollment. Where you're making cuts. Because nobody will come out and say, every cut that you have has a constituency behind it.
Right, sure.
People will come out in droves if it's money. How do you spend money? So what we're trying to do is, it's a balancing act. We're trying to keep this away from the kids as far as possible. Some of these do in fact affect classes and kids, but the difference is that these ratios, such as the 20-to-1 ratios or staffing ratios, these are ratios that are already in place, that have been in place for well over 10 years, and it's just staffing to the ratios that were already established in the district before the bad times happened, when it was the good times. Somehow they kind of got away from us, and our best guess on that is, I'll give you as an example, is when you have a school site, say a Petaluma High School, that's at 1,800 for years and years and years, and now gradually declines back to in the 1,300s, but the staffing never changes. So it's just kind of readjusting some of that and going back so it's at least consistent. You know, it's the same issue that we had at the continuation high school, where we should be staffing around 20-to-1, and we were staffing at almost 11, 10-to-1, when no continuation high schools at that in the state. They're somewhere in the neighborhood of between 16 and 24. So so that's kind of in here. Those are easy ones to do. It's going to be some of the other things that are going to require more analysis. Maybe there's a savings in transportation, but maybe not. And the other thing is shifting how we do business. And Chris has talked about this, that we have for a long time, and I'm using this term loosely for public education because I've yet to see a district that doesn't do a lot of this. We do a lot of an island approach. And the island approach is the concept of, well, there's one principal at a school, that's all they work at that school, they don't work anywhere else. These custodians, they work at this school, they don't do anything else. These, and you start going position after position after position, when some districts are looking at things such as custodial services and saying, well, we have to clean our schools. Is it possible that we could have roving custodians that travel together in groups of 4 or 5 with a supervisor and do that? And people do that very effectively, and they actually save money doing that because they can knock a couple schools out in a couple hours. Maybe, maybe not. But it's at least being creative and thinking about, are there different ways so that the kids aren't going to know the difference as long as it's a clean, and teachers, as long as it's a clean environment and as clean as they had with other services. So
when you start getting to declining enrollment, and it got really bad, I would say your first step would be to start cutting administrative expenses first before closing a school. Saying, can a principal serve as a half-time principal there and use them somewhere else? Because anytime you close a school, you kill the culture of that. But that would be, or custodial. Is there ways that you can start packaging jobs? Because really the costs associated with closing a school are really more in the labor costs. It's the secretary, the custodian, the clerk, the principal. Because you still have to have those kids, if they go somewhere else, you still have to have the teacher, you still have to have those aides, you're still going to have, you're going to save some on electrical, but your real expenses, as economies of scale, are your administrative or your administrative costs associated with running that school.
The non-instructional.
Yeah.
But there's still some physical maintenance and upkeep. Like right now with the gal school, we're on the agenda tonight. It's a lot of money to move a fire hydrant.
No doubt.
And the only reason I throw this out is that you can't just say, oh, we're going to close the school next year.
No.
It's like a 2 or 3 year discussion in a committee and community input and everything else. And then after that period of time of discussion, you reach a resolve of saying, hey, in the year 2020, we're going to close an elementary school. Why? Because it's going to be at 180 kids and we can't afford to operate that elementary school at 180 students. Unless we choose to do that, which means we're not going to be able to do certain other things. So.
Absolutely. So we look forward to June 13th and bringing you a preliminary budget.
Thanks, Chris.
Oh, Chris.
You've done all this with a palm and a smile and a lot of information, which is awesome. Digestible information. Thank you.
Good crew. You got a good team.
It's a good team.
Forward.
Moving on. I'd make no comments to the public.
What?
Okay.
You gotta run out there and just say something just for the heck of it.
You are not the public. But item 9 is report on activities and correspondence of school board members. So if you'd like to talk now, you may
Raise
talk.
throats, there you go.
I'm trying to pull it up. Hold on.
Probably the first part.
I don't know what happened. We're going very slow, so now I'm gonna have to go from memory. I had a couple for you guys. Conferences with the superintendent. Yes, there have been many of those. About each of us.
Which quotes,
Which he loves. Yeah, looks forward to it.
Yeah, Gary's been a hot commodity. What is the date?
He is a popular guy.
Sorry, I just got kicked out here. PHS Athletic Field Sites Review. Open houses at Valley Oaks, Valley Vista Grant, McNear. I've got a list here. Hold on just a second. There we go. Westside Relays, McKinley Open House, we said Grant. Casa Serve projects, which was really fun. I hadn't done that in a couple of years. San Antonio Award Ceremony for some honors in Spanish. Cruise in the Boulevard Scholarship Ceremony. And Pengrove Open House. We did a really good job covering all these open houses. Was that too fast?
Nope.
Can you write it down?
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind. Okay, can I have a piece of paper?
Nope.
Give me a piece of paper. Okay, and while I'm doing that, I will multitask. Item 10, approval of consent agenda by consolidated motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All right, all in favor on that one?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye. So
Better late than never.
Aye.
All right, that takes us down to item 11, action items. 11.1, administration, human resources. 11.1.1, resolution 1617-25 of the Board of Education of Petaluma City Elementary and Joint Union High School Districts, reducing a vacant campus security supervisor position effective July 24th, 2017. Any motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? It's a vacant position, so any questions or
And why
discussion?
July 24th?
Yeah, but that's July 1.
60 days notice, 60 days to eliminate a position.
I thought we're reducing it.
Eliminated.
Eliminate.
This says reducing.
Some are
Reducing a
eliminations and some are.
The first one was reducing, the rest of Sherry just misspoke. The
No, I
first two
didn't.
are
No, I
reducing.
did. It says reducing to vacant.
So you have to give 60 days notice when you're reducing a position?
She said.
Oh, all right.
You said reduce.
Yeah, I read it.
Well, there's a couple down there that will.
Yeah, no, I read this one. I read
All
it.
right. Aye.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 11.1.2, Resolution 1617-26, the Board of Education of Petaluma City Elementary and Joint Union High School Districts reducing the campus security supervisor position effective July 24th, 2017.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments or anything?
Is this some of the things we were talking about, is sort of staffing to ratio?
Yes, exactly.
Sort of getting things back into compliance?
Exactly.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 11.1.3, Resolution 1617-27, the Board of Education of Petaluma City Elementary and the Joint Union High School Districts eliminating vacant classified positions effective July 24th, 2017. You know, there was one I had a question on, so I'll take a motion in a second, but then I need a minute to...
So moved. So discussion.
Okay, let me, because some of these had a list, right?
Mhm.
And there was
That one's the
one, my apologies, I should have written it out.
And this one,
I think it's this one. No, go ahead, Kim.
so these are all vacant positions, this one? 11.1.3?
Yes.
So we're just not filling any of these positions?
Correct.
Okay, this is the one I had a question of. I was told that the student records clerk at San Antonio High School was not vacant.
That's not one of those
That's not that
positions.
one.
Oh, is that on the, I just pulled up the attachment.
No,
It's 1.4, it's 11.1.
No, it's
It's
11.
No, it's 11.1.3.
11.1.4.
Also
No,
listed
on 11.1.3, when you pull up the attachment for the resolution, in these listed classified, it says student records clerk at San Antonio High School.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
There may be an error in how those are listed, so there is of
That's
all
a
these
reality.
positions,
Reality.
there are two that are not vacant. That's one of them, and that person has bumping rights into another position, which we deal with after we have passed these resolutions.
Okay.
So yes, that is not, the one at San Antonio High School is not currently a vacant position.
Okay, and so I had a...
So we're eliminating, just to clarify, so we're eliminating the student records clerk as of July 24th at
Correct.
San Antonio High School?
That's correct. And that brings us into compliance with these, if you look at the top section of this other sheet that Chris passed out, where it has reduce/restructure site classified staff per staffing ratios, that's part of this restructuring, is looking at those staffing ratios and determining where we need to make reductions or eliminations of vacant positions in order to sort of bring us into compliance with these ratios that were developed 10, 15 years ago in our district.
Pre-recession era.
Frank has a
Correct.
question. That's- Frank, go ahead.
Yeah.
Just a question. Under LCFF funding, if that particular school chooses to set aside X number of dollars to pay for that position, they could choose to do that.
If they have, potentially, if they have the discretionary funding. to
Right,
do
that's
so.
what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that if they chose to spend money that way,
If they have the money to spend.
well, then that's the key. Okay, I just, so they have.
And there are school sites that support some of their staffing,
Is that this
Title
one or
I,
that's this one?
discretionary.
That's what I
things like
This
that.
one doesn't say vacant.
And I've actually had a couple of conversations about those possibilities, and I anticipate having further conversation with Bennett about those types of possibilities.
Sure. So
And we do have several other school sites that use PTA money, grant funded money, other kinds of discretionary money to support various numbers of hours, various numbers of positions at their school sites.
Okay, so we're still stuck back on this one, BB9. So it says at the bottom of the resolution where we would sign, it says vacant student records clerk, San Antonio High School, 6 hours a day. And I have a complaint from the principal that says that's not vacant. She works 5 hours a day.
She's okay,
there.
then there may be an error in that, because.
Okay, so I don't want
There is
to-
a vacant position, there is a position that's going to be vacant at Kenilworth. That person's being transferred, so we're eliminating what will be a vacant position because that person's being transferred to a vacant position at Petaluma High. But
So
you're
maybe we
correct.
just need to clarify this and put it.
So do we need a new motion
eliminate
to amend this and make sure that it, I'm not
I would suggest that for complete accuracy, we should do that, yes.
Okay.
Amend it too.
So I need an amended motion to make sure reads legally correct. And the flip side of that point is you're already aware that there is a body in that seat.
Correct.
And that, okay. And do you have any idea, how are they going to get, so the conversation was that at San Antonio requires a lot more work than robocalls about student truancy. It's actually calling how the families are really encouraging students to come to school, and they feel that they work very hard to help bring in ADA dollars by getting those butts and seats. And are they going to still be able to do that? And are we aware of that? And do we have any offering of how to help
So
them
one of the
accomplish
things,
that?
one of the things we did, Sherry, when Chris and I sat down and looked at these staffing ratios that had been developed a number of years ago, is particularly in the case of our alternative sites, we also did some research to look at other alternative schools in the area, such as Madrone down in San Rafael. And in fact, my assistant Christy called all these different schools to say, what kind of staffing do you have, et cetera, et cetera. And even with the reduction of this person, the staffing is still equal to or even greater than, in some cases, other continuation schools in our area. So we feel that this is an appropriate.
And they're comparable in size, and they're comparable in economic,
So
socioeconomic.
safe to say they have enough office staff that they should be picking up these tasks like a comparable school?
I think that.
That's our expectation.
Absolutely, and in fact, you know, it could be that we offer to do some, one of the committee comments has been about having efficiency studies, having someone come in and sit down and say, how can things be done differently? Are there, and I will tell you, I have seen places where you've got someone who's been in the position for long term, and they're still doing stuff on spreadsheet or manually that the system is also doing. So there may be ways that we can look at helping, but 1 point, how many hours? It's 1.75 for 70 to 90 students. Is a lot of clerical support.
Okay.
And yes, they are more complicated to do the tracking, but Valley Oaks is also complicated, and they have roughly 60 to 70 students, and they have 1.0.
Okay.
And I guess my follow-up question, has this person been talked to, and the principal at this site, it's been discussed and there's a plan, we've offered them support and transitioning? Okay.
Well, we will after this, because they'll be able to.
There should have been a conversation today or yesterday about this with the individuals, and then the follow-up for people who have bumping rights will occur after the resolution is passed.
So when you say there should have been, who has that conversation?
Well, I'm assuming it
The
did
principal.
because
We have
she
the
asked the
principals
principal
to
to
do it
talk
because
to
they're the
them
ones who have the most personal relationship with the individual, and then they get a letter from me, but we don't want them just getting a letter from me out of the clear blue sky. They need a personal conversation first.
And if these are all vacant positions, how do we end up saving money?
So the savings here is not equal to this. So for example, some of these vacant positions are based on restructuring or reclassification that's happened. So for example, in the business services department, there were 2 account clerk 2s. They essentially did accounts payable, splitting the alphabet. We felt like they needed to be account clerk 3s to more mirror what other people in like positions did. So what we did is we added 2 account clerk 3s. Those people applied for it and were put into the account clerk 3s. And now the account clerk 2 positions that they formerly held are vacant and need to go through this official process to close them, to reduce, enforce the positions. So some of it is simply cleanup. That's just the most recent ones that I'm aware of, but there's been, some of these things have happened over time. We had a person in the Ed Services Department, I'm not sure what their title was, but that position was something similar where there was a position added at a higher level. The person, you know, somehow was placed into it through whatever process. So a lot of this is just cleanup. It's not included in the savings. The savings are truly in, there was a position and it was budgeted. It could have been vacant.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it was
another
budgeted.
example was we had the asset technician, and when he left and went to Sonoma State, we just never filled the position. It's been sitting there all year. It wasn't that we didn't earmark any money in that position. It's just that we got to get rid of it because it no longer exists.
But the accountant position, for example, was a vacant position and it had been budgeted. So.
Okay, so does anyone want to, I would appreciate a motion on correcting the language on San Antonio clerk to accurately reflect that the position is not vacant, nor was it a 6-hour position.
You gotta modify your motion. So Linda, what do you think it should say? Instead of vacant student records clerk, I think that's one Sherry's talking about on page 2.
The second one. Just say
I don't think she's-
eliminating.
Just delete that, right?
Mhm.
But so student records clerk in San Antonio, that's, the first page is fine, right? Okay, because that's just a reference, so we're just gonna modify it to say that's deleted? Okay,
Or to say it's not vacant.
or to say it's not vacant.
To say it's not vacant, it's really just eliminating the word vacant.
Okay, so Frank just modified to say it's not vacant student records clerk.
It'd probably be better to do it, I think.
The whole resolution says.
I believe that if you look at 11.4, if you just jump ahead, if you add that one to 11.4 on that resolution, and because that resolution is Kenilworth, 8 hours per day, that is a currently occupied position that will be vacant, right? That underneath student records clerk Kenilworth, 8 hours, you would add student clerk
Student records clerk,
San Antonio, 6 hours. 5 hours. And then, so you would just you'd strike it from 3 and then address it on 4.
Got it. Okay, so. I'm lost in my agenda here.
I hope that makes sense.
11.13.
Yeah, I have to find it. So what do we do with his first motion? It's like I need the Roberts rule.
No seconds. Don't make a second.
There's no second.
It dies on.
Okay, and so now I need a motion eliminating the San Antonio position from 11.1.3.
So I move to, in resolution 11.1.3, to eliminate as a, it's not, we need to remove it from the list of the resolution 11.1.3. Amend the resolution.
And add it to.
Well, we'll get to 4. So just give me a second on that. You got a second on that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
No, good job.
Okay, 11.1.4. Resolution 1617-28 of the Board of Education of Petaluma Elementary and the Joint Union High School Districts eliminating the student records clerk position effective July 24th, 2017. Do we want to do a motion to amend that to add the San Antonio 5-hour records clerk position?
Yeah, I would move to accept it with the modification that the vacant student records clerk dash San Antonio High School.
Occupied.
Our occupied student records clerk dash San Antonio High School 6 hours per day be added.
Or 5 hours.
Didn't it say 6?
Yeah, but it's not 6, it's 5 hours.
Okay. Then it'd be modified to add occupied student records clerk dash San Antonio High School 5 hours per day be added to 11.14. In addition to the student records clerk position that's already listed.
Okay.
So, second?
Okay, does anyone have any questions about this?
So just to clarify, the Kenilworth one is currently occupied until July 1st?
Correct,
Until
and that
June
person
30th.
is being administratively transferred to an identical position at Petaluma High School.
And is that because Kenilworth has been overstaffed in the student
Correct.
records? They no longer need a student records clerk, or they have to?
According to our staffing ratio, that's correct.
But they don't need one at all?
No, they have one.
Oh,
They had
they've
two,
had
and
two.
now they'll have one, which is what the other schools have.
Okay.
Yeah.
When were the principals notified about these?
A couple months ago.
Probably 2 months,
Yeah.
maybe even more. They weren't happy.
I think some of them forgot.
Oh, no,
By the
they were,
emails I got, I think they
conversation
forgot.
was, nobody's happy about losing staff.
Of course not, yeah.
You know, and I think they knew because we had a conversation with all of them and said that we didn't know at the time, but said we have found the staffing ratio from because it was, there wasn't a staffing ratio that we were operating under. So we finally found one from 2007, which was the pre-recession one. That was the critical one. And we were going to go through every single position and apply it accordingly. And most places fit exactly where they were. They landed exactly with the right numbers of secretarial staff and whatnot. These are just the few that were off.
Yeah.
And they're off quite a bit.
Okay.
And that makes sense for why we're in the situation that we're in. Because these are cumulative, even if it's just like $200,000, like 3 positions, well, that's over 10 years, that's $2 million.
Well, it says it's 150 proposed, is that?
I just estimated it because at that point, until we knew exactly what positions and how many hours, and so now, after tonight, as we're building the budget, we'll be able to identify how much that is. That was just a very rough.
And are there more positions that we're going to be eliminating, or just extend the list?
We haven't completely finished looking at all the staffing. This is the majority of it, but there are some other areas we still need to look at, such as food service, just to make sure that we have what we need.
Campus supervisors?
That's
Have you already done
included
that?
here.
Yeah, but that's just an ongoing thing based upon enrollment, I would assume that they're
Yes, yeah, it is
allocated.
based upon a number of students. So
Yeah.
as student numbers increase, we would add, et cetera. If they decrease, we might reduce, but we don't anticipate any further decreases in that for next year.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
11.1.5, Resolution 1617-29, the Board of Education of Petaluma City Elementary and Joint, Joint Union High School Districts eliminating classified positions effective, July 24th, 2017. May I have a motion? Second? Someone?
Second.
Okay, any questions on this one? More of the same? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks for your patience on that one. 11.2, Business Services, 11.2.1, Purchase Orders. Do I have a motion?
Are you guys good?
I think we're good. I'm good on this
I'm
one.
fine.
Phoebe, are you good?
Yep.
I'm good. So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Steve, side?
Aye, yes.
Frank, aye?
Aye.
Okay. 11.2.2,
Sure.
it's okay, it's getting late. Agreement approval to sell and purchase Sarton's menu. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Anyone know it?
Yeah.
So this has been an interesting process, and this actually was a request by the school site who wanted to discontinue the program. I'm assuming you all know about the Sartain's menu and how we acquired it several years ago, et cetera. We worked with legal counsel because we needed to understand how to sell it. There were MOUs in place with Mr. Sartain's. We needed to get his release to allow us to sell it. We did that, and then we sold it for $10 to a buyer. There's still nuances with how do we unravel the program, but this is really coming from the school site's request. So we're helping the school site basically transition this program.
Okay.
And I think that it was a really good program for its time, but I think it has extended beyond its useful life to the school site. And honestly, there were some nuances to this program, things like, sales tax and some few other things that we probably needed to think about how to do that a little differently if we were going to keep the program. So we think that this is...
More moving part to a small business than people think. Seriously, there's a lot of moving parts.
There is a lot of moving, and I think it was an opportunity for the administration at CASA to really see how many moving parts, and that it wasn't, I think initially it was just, Chris, can you just approve that we, and I'm like, well, we have to actually, and we did a lot of research. There was actually a business license that had been taken out with the city. There was a lot of pieces to this that we had to untangle legally in order to allow the school site to move forward with it, which we believe these agreements do. So.
Okay.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we need to revisit those last two resolutions?
Well, no, what I was saying is I noticed that that San Antonio position
Yes,
is on
we noticed that just now, too.
1627 and 1629, so it's correct on 1629. So we just need to strike it from 1627 when you sign, and then it'll be, everything will be correct.
Okay. And the library, is that on there twice?
No.
No,
I
okay.
think we should look through those lists.
Okay, we'll look through them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, 11.2.3, award of contract to Michael Paul Company Incorporated for the relocation of the modular buildings, I'm kind of tired of one of them, and new fire hydrant at McDowell Elementary School. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Just,
Take it away.
just a question. Can I do a what if? So we approve this. 2 years from now, the board comes back, whoever those board members happen to be at that time, and they decide that they're gonna close McDowell. Money well spent, money ill spent, based upon a possibility that none of us can really forecast. We can't look at the tea leaves and project that. But you've been at it long enough. I mean, this is, fire hydrant's a necessity. I mean, you can't operate a school without a fire hydrant. You gotta move the modulars. So, good expenditure, bad expenditure? I mean,
Well, I will tell you that this is not just about portables. We're actually upgrading the fire alarm. It's a very old fire alarm panel, so we're getting a new fire alarm panel, which is essential for the school site. We're taking 2 restroom facilities and making them into ADA accessible restrooms. Plus the fire hydrant, which is, we're way out of compliance. We're in compliance according to when the school was built many years ago. Having a new fire hydrant is not a bad thing. So the cost of the cost of all of that, it's much more comprehensive than just putting in 2 portables in place. I will tell you that we have a very strong adult ed program that continues to operate on this campus. So long-term, adult ed could easily expand. There's lots of opportunities here. We have childcare on this campus. We have a Boys and Girls Club on it. We have Mentor Me program on this campus. This is not just a K-6 campus. This is a comprehensive campus that provides parent classes. It's, yes, McDowell is small when you look at just the TK to 6th grade piece, but McDowell School is so much more than that. And it really does serve the community on so many levels. So I think the question you're asking is a really, really fair, valid question to ask. But I think if the school site wants to have an opportunity to grow, it's essential to do this.
Well, I think that the question really just comes down to, at least for right now for McDowell, is in absence of adult education, then it would be a really significant question right now. But adult education easily takes up 6 classrooms, easily. And ultimately, it might be in our best interest to even move, and Carol's aware of this, move our facilities here over there, if that works. So if we didn't have adult education, and we didn't have issues related to adult education, and the state hadn't backfilled funding for adult education, then I think we're having a very different conversation. And if the state decides down the road, it's a year-to-year thing, to change their method of how they fund adult education, or no longer support that, then that's a whole different issue, but that's not anticipated.
But you also think about, it provides the wherewithal for South County. There are more moderate to severe programs that can actually be a little bit more isolated campus as it relates to mental health programs. Where I come from, we had campuses that we very effectively used for special education programs that needed to be a little bit more isolated on campus. So there's lots of opportunities for how to use this campus in the future if something changed. It also houses the art docent program. That's in the whole classroom. So there's a lot of programs on this campus. But your question's a really good one. I don't want to understate that. It's the right question. I will also tell you, when we put the North Bay Children's Center portable in, that exceeded this cost, just for the North Bay Children's Center at Valley Vista. So I've really grappled with this and whether to recommend it. In fact, we had the bids 3 weeks ago. We didn't bring it at the last board meeting because we wanted to continue to kind of work on our due diligence. And we're going to also look for value engineering on programs to try to bring some of the costs down. But hopefully that answers your question adequately.
It does.
And is this bond money or modernization? Or?
We're going to use a combination of funding sources. We're going to use some developer fee money, which is really earmarked for growth, and we're trying to grow this campus. And probably dip into some of our capital facilities funds, but we're trying not to use bond money for that. McKinley will be bond money, Cherry Valley will be bond money, but not this program.
Okay, that's a good question. I liked it.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation.
And we also, you know.
Both of them, thanks.
Yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, and I guess for me that's important because I didn't understand the, you know, kind of the back narrative on this, of all the different programs that were associated with it. So.
And I'll tell you, just as a quick aside, this opportunity, we've used this opportunity to actually analyze. We're paying general fund custodial support for McDowell, but it's actually supporting an adult ed program. So we're actually looking at how do we rethink some of our custodial and how it should actually be charged off, both from a custodial supplies, lending service. And so it actually has been an opportunity for us to see, is there some, do we need to rethink how we're charging some of the services on that campus? Because I just didn't realize how extensively it was being used by the adult ed program. So we're actually having some of those conversations while we're doing this from an operational perspective.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
Good.
I was about to. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good to take a
That is my
question.
question.
11.2.4, awarded contract to Brazos Urethane for roofing, coatings, and associated work at Casa Grande High School.
Second.
Any questions?
This actually came in under budget, I just want to note that. It actually came in slightly under the engineer's estimate, we were happy to see it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 11.2.5, award of contract to Pioneer Contractors Incorporated for roofing and associated work at Pengrove Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
You'll notice a lot of roofing projects here.
Yeah.
It's been a long winter. So this is two buildings at Pengrove. This and Casa Grande were two of the roofs that we identified early on. By we, I really mean Joe and his team. And we now know we have a Petaluma High School roof, but this is one of the roofs that really needs to be done. They've had some water intrusion issues for several years now, and it was very apparent this past winter. So this will hopefully address many of
Did
them.
you only have one bid on this?
We only had one bid, yes. It's a tough market to go out to bid in May. It's a tough market. Our target for next year will be March. We try to get ready to go out to bid for March, but, you know, just starting in July and not, we didn't have architects on board. We were kind of behind the 8 ball, but we can't wait because the water intrusion issues for Pengrove are serious. So, and it came in, you know, it came in within $3,000 of the engineer's estimate. If it had come in at $300,000, we probably would have said we need to rethink. But because it came in so close to engineer's estimate, we felt comfortable recommending it. But we only have one bid.
And that's okay, I mean, you're not required to have one.
We're only required to have a competitive process, which is what we've done. Everybody's busy, and you can imagine after this winter, roofing contractors, no shortage of work for them. So.
And did like Henry's roofing, do they bid on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with Henderson in the past. They didn't bid on it. But we advertised it, we recruited.
Tell me they're too busy to do Lisa, they're doing all the school projects.
Yeah.
This one.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 11.2.6, so the words are, award of contract to Siri Grading and Paving Incorporated for field alterations at Mary Collins Charter School. Woo-hoo. I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
So-
Yeah, how did we get here? This was quite a bit over where we thought we would be on
And
this.
it's not even the entire project, is it?
Yeah, it's pretty much the entire project.
What was our original number on this?
The original number
Don't-
on the back of the napkin.
You weren't here when this came.
It was 150, but when the engineers came and spoke that time, when the engineers were here, the architects, they were saying 350. I mean, they were saying.
I definitely was gone.
Yeah.
I think I actually decided on camera, no one told me.
I can't believe, it's like triple. That's
We only got one bid here.
So I will tell you that there's a couple changes, so I'll just comment on a couple changes. We talked about this when we did the presentation. The Carducci and Associates, who's the landscape architect working under Marshall Lee, recommended a couple modifications. One is a pump to increase the irrigation pressure because there's not adequate water pressure on that campus. The pump itself is $20,000. So we, part of the design
Not adequate
change,
water pressure wood, I thought they were going all natural grass.
but you have to irrigate it. It's natural gas, it's not synthetic, it's natural.
No, they were gonna go that whole natural field with the natural grasses, not natural turf. They were gonna, the whole design was.
No, it was always, my understanding is always, you have to have it irrigated. No grass will survive.
No, there was a component of that, but there was a big component of graffiti. They wanted it to be a natural scape.
There will be natural, it is
They
gonna be.
eliminated that, right?
There is gonna be natural landscaping around the track.
Okay.
But the inner field,
Right,
there's
you
not
gotta-
adequate water pressure to irrigate it. And so one of the changes is that they put in for a pump because they need to get more water pressure to the field. That's what's added to the safety issues on the field, is that if you can't irrigate it well,
I get it. So that's $20,000.
that was
So
$20,000.
now we're up to 170. He's gonna.
150 was not, there is no, I
The
will
Gopher
tell
catch and
you.
release program, obviously. is put in
Right,
there.
that's not even addressed in here.
150,000 is barely enough to do a field, much less a track. So 150,000 was probably not a realistic estimate. And that was done, 3 years ago?
We don't, I'm not
2
sure
meetings
where the
ago.
estimate came from, the 150.
Yeah, well,
I think it was what was listed in the bond.
right, that's what the bond.
Yeah, that's
Well,
how
the
much
plan,
money-
it was I don't think it was listed in the bond language, but in the plan.
Well,
the
that
original
extra
budget.
money's gotta come from one other project, gotta come from another project then, because all those projects have been allocated.
Well, it comes from Cherry Valley. Because remember, we have modernization monies. Remember, there's
Yeah, but they're using bond money for this.
right, but we have, but there, remember for the elementary schools, it just says modernization. It doesn't say track and field.
Okay.
It's not like the secondary one's very specific.
Right.
It lays out all of the specific
That's right.
positions, and then it says a little bit about high school modernization.
Right.
Well, the
Elementary
elementary one
general,
doesn't. It
right.
just says mod.
Right, so
So-
Cherry Valley's getting a
So
track
what
and
you're saying
field,
is-
it may not get a lot of modernization on its
That's,
field.
so they get a chunk of money. And if it's $800,000, this $460,000 is coming out of that $800,000 chunk.
You're right. I said, don't tell Mike, it's you weren't
Is
here.
the grading and paving coming, they're gonna do all the irrigation, everything?
So they're literally, so the scope of work,
Just told me. No, I've never supported
the
it.
scope,
They're track and field.
the scope of work is what the school site asked for. It's regrading the entire field and taking it from about a 5% grade to roughly a 2% grade.
Right.
It is all new irrigation. It is addressing drainage issues at the north side of the field, which is the YMCA, is it YMCA or North Bay Children's Center?
Yeah.
North Bay Children's Center. So there's drainage issues because the field would potentially flood North Bay Children's Center during heavy rains. So some drainage issues that are addressed there. It's also, remember, it's putting in a new paved track.
That's it.
It's not doing the meandering track, it's doing an oval track around the field. It gives it wider, I think it's 14 feet in front of the play structure / solar arrays. So there's a wider, so they can do relays because it's a 7-8 program. And remember, Cherry Valley is a K-8 school, so there's a PE component here that it's gonna improve based on the track and the field.
Well, I hope for $500,000.
But and that's not even all the cost, is it?
I'm
We have
sorry.
engineering
Yeah,
and architectural
Right,
costs.
you're right, that this is the construction cost, not the
Just
project
the
cost.
construction.
You're right.
This thing's gonna be $1 million. That's how it's gonna go.
It'll probably be closer to 650,
Yeah.
700 total.
So,
But the bottom line is, if there's a
So
budget,
550 to 600.
if there's a budget set aside for Cherry Valley, and let me just go back to my hypothetical number. If we allocated $800,000 to Cherry Valley,
Mhm.
this $600,000, when everything is said and done, is coming out of that 800. So they just picked a number.
I
They're
don't know that that's true. We don't have that laid out.
Right.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I think if we could, Mike won't commit Harry Carey if we understand that it's not gonna throw an additional cost on. It's just saying, you got a budget, and you're choosing to spend your budget this way. But you're only gonna wind up with
No, we
200,000.
committed to doing this track years ago.
So let
I'm
me
not,
just,
but I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that they shouldn't get any more money than was initially allocated to them for modernization.
So let me just say, let me just add,
My-
let me add a couple of thoughts, because we grappled with this one as well. We really, really grappled. It's not gonna get any cheaper to do this project.
No.
No.
And it is truly it's a safety issue for the students, the condition of the field. We don't have to put in a track. But that has been the commitment and the expectation, clearly. If we delay, if we redesign, even if we take out scope, if we bid it next year, if we wait another year, we bid it in February, March, it's not gonna most likely cost any less money. It's only gonna get more expensive. So we either choose not to do it, which is a choice. I mean, the board does not have to award this contract tonight. The board could say, nope, we're not awarding the contract, we bring it back, you reject all the bids, of which I think there's.
Maybe just passed out.
This is all bond money, correct?
Yes. So I'm just trying to, because we also grappled with, what do we do with this? And we have talked to the architects extensively about, are there value engineering items that we can do to try to reduce the cost? But if you want the track, if you want the field, address the drainage, and we have to redo irrigation.
So all the bond does is it lists, it just says modernization, and in parentheses, it says the school site. And this was a projection of which schools would start first. But as it relates to Mary Collins, it was lumped with McDowell, and that total it's not separated. That total was almost 3.2 million related to that. Most other schools about 1.5 to 1.7 million, but 3.2 for McDowell.
And I'm trying to
and Mary
remember.
Collins.
I mean, in the
Yeah, so when you use 20% on
elementary
that?
bond, we didn't have a list of
But there's
things.
no
I
more
know
money.
we did
That's
for
what I'm
the
saying. That these-
secondary.
No, even the secondary has $18 million set aside for modernization. I don't believe the secondary, even when I went in and analyzed all the data, I don't think the secondary actually identifies Petaluma High will get exactly this amount and Casa will go. I mean, I think there was a determination that we had needed to.
Secondary is project-led project.
Well, no, they also
Not
have
the
modernization.
Not the modernization.
And
It's
that
project by
part.
project, but not the modernization piece.
Did you work through
Last
this?
year.
No, that's good.
I can't
I
remember.
think we have to stay with this.
Did you guys work through
We
this?
have-
No,
No,
but why do we
I
only
just-
get one bid too? No, it's only a bid, we don't.
It's a tough environment out there right now. There's a lot of bonds out there. There's a lot of, the state bonds have passed. People are busy. There's no doubt. We're at the end of that 8-year recovery, right? It's been an 8-year recovery and construction's been building. They're seeing escalation of 20 to 25% everywhere. It's not just us. So, and the engineer's estimate was 420, so this is coming in about 18%, what did we say? 9.5% higher. It's coming in at 10% over what the engineer's estimate is.
See,
Okay.
just as another point of discussion, I don't want to micromanage a school's budget and how they choose to spend their money.
But this isn't their budget.
But there's an allocation that was given to 2 schools that adds up to $3.7 million. That was between McDowell and Cherry Valley.
It was just vague, it was not.
But here's the point. If they were allocated $1 million and they choose to spend that amount of money on doing a field, so be it.
Isn't the track listed separately, the Cherry Valley track on that list?
No, it's
No.
track and field.
I mean, it was never considered modernization money.
Actually, it is. It's listed as 170, it was 177.
Yeah, so it's a
as
whole separate list there, Mr.
Item.
Lynch.
Really, it's 3.4 million, 3.3, 3.3.
So essentially, even though we're going over budget with the bond money on the track as we projected, we could call some of this the bond modernization for that school.
If you took half.
And that circles back, Trustee Lynch, to what you were saying.
You're not going to get any more money.
1.8 for
You're
Cherry Valley.
you're just reducing their amount of money.
And you've got, now you have 1.2.
Got it. There you go. I'm with you now.
Are you with me?
Now
Are you
I'm
with
there.
me, brother?
I'm with you, but I guess if their buildings are falling down, we're not gonna say, oh, well, you chose to get a track instead of fixing your building. I mean,
Safety, you
just
can't,
being- right,
like she said, roofs and stuff, you gotta do deferred maintenance.
So, yes, I think it's a good,
It is a legitimate concern.
yeah,
I mean, you could,
we committed to.
your
it.
options are, I guess.
I'm more concerned, just a simple track ends up being $600,000. It was a simple track concept is how it started, And that's what happens. Everybody piles on, and then you got new pumps, and we got little houses for the gophers, and all this different stuff going on.
Does this address
And the
the
track
gophers?
is, I remember how they designed the track. I guarantee you they didn't go back.
This doesn't even
I'm
include
teasing
gophers.
about
No,
the
I'm
gophers.
telling you, that's a whole nother.
No, but
Don't
we
get
are
started
gonna put
on
in L boxes
So
and we're
whatever.
gonna,
What about, and is the track a nice oval, or is it that quirky
it's a
design?
nice oval, it's a nice, no, we didn't go with the quirky
Okay, 'cause I remember
meandering
that, they had the
design.
meandering.
We went with the Gary Callahan.
What about the interior waterfall? Do we have the interior waterfall fountain?
We did put a water feature in, no, I'm just.
Yeah.
And the site is.
I love it.
Are you pleased with this?
No.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Yeah,
everything
let's
they
go.
wanted.
Let's
They
move on.
wanted the wider thing, they wanted, I mean,
Right.
you know, we had, so for example, so picture Mary Collins Cherry Valley, picture where the solar array is and all the bark. And there's wooden railroad ties trying to hold all that bark in.
Oh, I get it.
We have to address it
I get it.
before, so we have to
It's-
take that out
listen,
and fix
it's
it
not,
before we, I mean.
anybody would be crazy to say, oh, that's a perfectly safe field. Something needs to be done, I get it. I guess I just get sticker shock, and I just can't believe how it starts adding up, and then we get the Lucky Bucks bond bid, and next thing you know, we're at $500,000 on a $150,000 project, but okay. I mean, I have to count the people out there, they have asked me, I got a lot of business clients who go, how the heck do you guys do this?
But remember, the engineers who came here like 4 months ago.
No, I know, they said it was a tight squeeze.
It was in
Who
the
did this?
350 to 400,000. Carducci came in
done
and
for
said
that?
420.
Those two guys look like deer in the headlights.
That was Tyson and his colleagues.
I'm sorry.
About.
But they were like, we can't do this.
I know.
You might want to either vote yes or no.
All
and
in favor?
Call it a day.
Oh, let's keep.
Aye.
There's one more.
Only out of
Boys.
support of my fellow board members. Do I have no wrestling
And there's
with it?
amazing children in
you
Cherry
gotta
Valley.
I'll vote with them,
You gotta love Mike.
just so they don't feel bad
Your
for the rest of their lives.
11.2.7, that's
This one,
all of us.
What?
Contract approval with Community Playgrounds Incorporated for finishing the installation of a new kindergarten play structure at McKinley School.
This one too.
So
wow.
moved.
Second.
Second, okay, so we're discussing. Okay,
So I will just tell you, I've never seen a kinder play area that is so limited
Oh, okay.
as McKinley. In
No.
all of the
Well,
schools
gee, that's
I've seen.
surprising.
So this is going to, we worked with the kinder teachers, we worked with Principal Harris. This is going to give them a unique it's not just a play structure. It's a synthetic grassy area that'll function as a small soccer field. It gives a couple logs for the kids to play on nearby. It gives them a brand new play structure itself and a new rubberized surface. And this is well worth it.
Right.
And I'll tell you, we will need to address their other two play structures next summer, summer of 18. We've got some designs for that, but the PTA is committing $10,000 toward this.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And it is very, very exciting for the school. So I will just tell you, we're gonna be moving some fencing around, that'll be a separate thing, and recapturing some space. But it's very disheartening when you see Head Start and South SCO Head Start has a program there.
Yep.
They have this amazing play structure that our kids are not allowed to play on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, I remember.
So this is really gonna be, if you look at McDowell has some pretty unique play structure things, which are pretty amazing.
They got that
Yeah.
right, yeah.
They're gonna get a unique.
No, we're fixing McKinley up on the
This is-
outside,
this
so
is a
in the
good
interior,
This is
we're
cute.
gonna- yeah, this is.
And this
the
is
drop in the
about what
bucket.
they run. Did not have sticker shock on this one. This is what it costs.
Of course, coming off the last one, that's gopher money.
And this is routine restricted maintenance, not bond money.
I didn't realize you had to deal with
Yes.
gopher.
Oh, you haven't seen the gopher problem. She's got names for them, little badges.
Should I find the video?
That's
gotta-
our next
we gotta
new
tag the
favorite
gophers.
thing. This is go for money.
Yeah, the catch and release.
All in favor?
Aye.
Still touch jump.
We got-
11.2.8, contract for inspection services with F&G Design Drafting Services for various projects within Petaluma City Schools. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, both.
Okay, so this.
Questions, comments?
She cannot speak on this unless you really have a question about this.
I didn't have a
Stuff we gotta get done.
Frank wants
Did they already provide these services?
No. This This is inspector of record services that are necessary on all the projects we're doing this summer coming up.
All right, all
So
in
this
favor?
is required.
Got it.
All in favor?
Reluctantly.
Aye.
Aye. Oh my goodness. All right.
All right.
Future business, Gary, anything?
Maybe.
Nope. Nope.
Go.
We do, we need a gopher report at our next.
What?
Right.
Just the LCAP, that's the big one.
All right, we have a
All
meeting
right.
for that tomorrow night, yes.
Chris, thank you.
We got a closed session. We got a closed session. Report out.
Oh, gosh, yes, I do.
Get you, really quick.
Wait, where's my closed session? Sorry.
by heart.
I got it. Okay.
Thank you, last audience member, you were
Yes,
very.
you hung in there to the very end, Aaron. No, she can't. All right, case number 3. Case has been presented to the board that the student did commit an expellable act as defined by the California Education Code. The recommended motion is for the board to expel and suspend the site discipline team's recommendation for expulsion in accordance to board policy to allow continued enrollment in district-operated school under mandated conditions. The student's suspended expulsion status will be in effect for the spring semester of the 2016-2017 school year, so much better, and the fall semester of the 2017-2018 school year. Conditions above subject to review with evidence of positive attendance, satisfactory behavior, substance abuse counseling program and screenings, community service, and appropriate academic performance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And Alan is gone. All right, okay. Case number 34. The case has been presented to the board that the student did commit an expellable act as defined by the California Education Code. The recommended motion is for the board to expel and to suspend the site discipline team's recommendation for expulsion in accordance to board policy and to allow continued enrollment in district-operated school under mandated conditions. The student's suspended expulsion status will be in effect for the spring semester of the 2016-2017 school year and the fall semester of the 2017-2018 school year. Conditions above subject to review that evidence of positive attendance, satisfactory behavior, substance abuse counseling program and screenings, community service, and appropriate academic performance.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hello?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right, aye. The pirates said aye. We are, nothing else to report. We are not reconvening. We are adjourned.
Too soon.
All right.